Good morning, everybody. It is Ben and Woods on a Wednesday, a Woodsless Wednesday, as it were. But we got a special treat for you. I am Ben Higgins. Let me just quickly get to our introductions this morning. We got executive producer Paul Reindl in his usual chair. Good morning, Paulie.
Hey, how are you?
And joining us today in Woods' absence, and we'll talk a little bit more about where Woodsy is in a second, if you don't already know, Sam Levitt, our Padres pre- and post-game show host, is in this morning, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. Good morning, Sammy.
Hey, good morning, guys. Good to be here. I'm always surprised by how much traffic there is, even at like 5:20 a.m. Although, interesting, on the 8, not a lot of traffic. Once you get on the 15, it's like a whole different story.
I travel the 15 every morning. I live in like South Escondido, so about 20 minutes on the 15 every morning. And I usually leave my house between like 4:40 and 4:50 every day. But if anything slows me up, if I leave the house at 5, traffic picks up. If I leave the house at 5:05, traffic picks up even more. Like every 5 minutes, you're like, good God, it gets busier and busier throughout that 5 o'clock hour.
Well, that's our audience out there, Sammy. Those are the tier ones who are up
it's
early.
funny. My first thought when I saw the traffic, especially on the 15, was, man, it would kind of make sense if we had something on at 5 a.m. Could petition for a
We used
a
to
5
start.
a.m. start.
We actually
Don't
used to
give Adam
start
any
at
ideas.
5 a.m. And it wasn't, for me, it was horrible because I couldn't, I just physically couldn't do it with staying up as late
You
as
weren't
I
here
do for
that
television.
yet, Sammy. We
Yeah,
went
we
on
know.
it.
You
We
were already
started
at
at
6.
5.
We started at 5, went to 9, but I didn't get here until like 5:25 or
Ben
so.
just joined the show 2 segments in.
It's just like
every day.
there's no way I can get up any earlier than I am already waking up. But the people who are out there and driving early this morning and probably doing it every day, they know a phenomenon that I ran into this morning, and that is a lot of construction on our roadways takes place overnight, 9 p.m. to 5 a.m. And there was some on my way onto the freeway this morning up in Encinitas. And they were wrapping up. It was just before 5 o'clock, so the crews were finishing their shift. I always think, man, that must be a tough shift. You're starting at 9, laying out the cones, and you're working for 8 hours, and clocking out at 5 a.m. and picking up all the cones and getting ready to do it again the next day when traffic is the lightest. But they were picking up their final cones. It was like 450 or whatever. But they forgot one. It was right in the middle of the road, and I had to like swerve out of the way. Like they just completely forgot a cone that was right in the middle. So keep an eye out for the cone if you're on Manchester Avenue up in Encinitas, because I nearly ran over that thing this morning. First of all, I want to know, Paulie, first of all, how are you? Before we get to Sammy, how are you doing?
I'm good.
Okay.
How are you doing?
I am fine.
Okay, good.
Missing Woods, obviously. He is going to Disneyland with his kids today.
That's nice.
Which I did that like 4 years ago. My kids are no longer kids. They're now adults. So it really is hard to make up the excuse that I need to take my kids somewhere this morning. It doesn't work anymore. They're adults, but I'm glad Woods is taking a day.
It'd be weird if just you by yourself
went to Disneyland for a day. I get that.
That'd be
totally get that.
little creepy.
That'd be odd.
Didn't they go to the zoo yesterday? Did I see that on?
I think Bo and Woods, they went to the safari park out in
good.
Escondido.
I haven't been there.
I
How
haven't
is
either.
that?
I live nearby, but I have not been there.
The zoo's
You've
great.
never been to the Wild Animal Park? Technically
not.
the San Diego Zoo Safari Park, but
So that is part of the zoo.
it is. It is it's an offshoot of the San Diego Zoo. It used to be called the Wild Animal Park.
Yes.
And it's more of a safari type experience than a traditional zoo experience with exhibits. You have there's like a tram ride that goes around a big like African grassland, and you kind of see it from a distance, but the animals can kind of interact more and roam around in a much larger space than you would see at a normal zoo, which has enclosures, but obviously it's in a city, so it's much smaller. This is a larger plot of land.
Woodsy did call me on the way home from the safari park with Bo, and he said that they got to have a pretty up-close viewing of the condors being fed large dead rats. And he said Bo flipped. Like he was like, "What is going on right now?"
I could contribute a few. We have a mice problem
Really?
in our house.
Oh no!
I have probably caught. I don't know if this is good news or bad news. No less than like 12 in the last 2 days.
Oh, my
in our
God.
electric traps. I know, in the garage. When we cleaned it out, like we found like an area where they'd gotten into the wall in the garage, and now it's like, okay, set the trap out, and just like every 20 minutes I go out there, it's blinking green, and like I got another one. This is fantastic. Is it ever going to end though? Like, are we going to get to the end of the nest, and then we can seal it up completely? I want to get them out though before I seal them up, so I'm trying to catch them all. It's unpleasant.
I don't have any mice in my apartment. Now, my building is pretty old in PB. We get some roaches. Speaking of construction, they had construction going on in the alley behind my apartment, which, they shut down the alley like the whole day, right? So you're scrambling for parking on the street. I want to know your guys' opinion of this, because I got a notice from my apartment complex a couple of days ago, a text. Power's going to be out tomorrow. They said from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m.
Good God.
Doesn't that seem like a long time?
That's a lot.
Right?
Yeah.
I was thinking, am I going to have to throw this stuff in the fridge, in the freezer away? The way it was written, it wasn't like it's going to be off an hour at some point between 8 and 6. The way it was written,
the whole time.
That's what it sounded like. That seems like a long time.
My guess is they are giving you the absolute widest possible window.
That's what I thought.
Hopefully, the reality
10
of it
hours
is
seems
that it
like
won't
a
be
long time.
off that long. But I get it. If I was a public official of some sort,
Right.
and I was warning people, and I said it's going to be off for 2 hours probably, and it ends up being off for 3, I know I'm never going to hear the end of it.
Right.
But if I say it's going to be off for 10 and it's only off for 6, then everyone goes, nice job, guys. Well done in getting that done, more efficiently than you thought. So I'm always going to overestimate rather than underestimate the amount of time we're going to cut the power.
They may be doing some major work because they put signs up in the alley, like not to park there tomorrow. So we'll see. But we'll see. I'm trying to move. Again, my first move since moving here initially, so that's my mission right
Carlos
now.
thinks I need to get a cat. We actually had a brief discussion about that. I am deathly allergic to cats, which then brought up the idea of a hairless cat, which those are just like really creepy looking, which is a problem as well. My son thinks hairless cat is the answer. That's what we want. I go, I don't think I want a hairless cat roaming around our house, but I mean,
12 mice in 2 days.
If the mouse problem is
a
as
lot,
bad
yeah.
as it is, we may need to get to desperate measures. I think a lot of people are curious, Sammy. All right, now that the season is over, and abruptly so, you didn't know, you might have thought you were still working, getting ready for a World Series, so obviously you were planning for that, but it ends abruptly. How does your life change? What do you do now that the off season is here and you're not working like every single day?
Well, it changes a lot because, you're right. Look, it is pretty much, aside from the Padres off days, it is every day from that first day of spring training on. So that's 8 months. So now that when they're on the road and I'm in here, it's easier, but still I'm in here. I don't know, a solid, but between pregame, the game, and postgame, I'm probably in this studio at least, 7-ish hours, even when they're on the road. So it changes a lot. You have more free time, play some pickleball, catch up on some things. I'll go home back to see my parents in New York next month, and you got more time.
I just want to say that I appreciate you coming in here, because I have done the pre and post game life before, and when the off season hits, it does sometimes feel like, what am I supposed to be doing here? But if you do the math, just as if you had a normal 9 to 5, 5-day-a-week job, let's say, okay, there's 52 weeks a year, figure a couple of weeks for vacation. Even if you are working all 5 days a week, there's holidays as well. So that's 250 days right there. Throw in a few holidays. We're talking about 240 some odd work days, I think, for a normal person in a year, minus weekends, vacation, and holidays.
Right.
If you take 8 months of working, close to 30 days a month, that's your 240 right there. You've worked an entire year's worth of work days during the baseball season.
You put in the work,
technically, Odyssey should have no problem if Sammy wanted to say on, here on October 23rd, hey, I'll see you on February 15th when I show up to spring training. You've gotten your money's worth out of me. I'm I'm on salary. Just keep the checks coming for the next few months. I'm good. I've worked my days this year.
I would also say there's a uniqueness to the schedule because A, spring training's totally different. B, it's all times of day. It's every weekend. I mean, I haven't had a Saturday or Sunday free literally since early February, right? So it's like a mix of all of it. It's the hours, it's the weird schedule, it's the fact that you really can't, like, I really don't leave San Diego much once the season starts. You got to kind of be here, right? Either in the studio or at the ballpark. So yeah, you got more time and, so yeah, it is different. I will say this, it ends very abruptly. Like I'm always, when you're not going to be in the postseason, and I really don't have this experience here because even last year, like there was that glimmer of hope towards the end. But, unless you know for a while your team just isn't good and they're not going to make the postseason, it ends very abruptly. Like to me this year in particular.
Oh, yeah.
Was very abrupt. There was always that chance they were going to lose in the NLDS. But, you're driving home on the way back and you're like, wow, it goes from very, very intense every day to it's over in the blink of an eye. And that's weird. And it's weird for fans, too.
Paul, you got a rally moth in the studio?
We do have a rally moth.
And maybe
just buzzed right by my face.
Maybe too late for rally insects and animals at this point. I thought, you'd have to plan, obviously, for the Padres to continue going on. So, looking at travel possibilities, today would have been the day that I was probably, flying out to New York for the World Series, workout day tomorrow and game one on Friday. Now, obviously, they're coming out to Los Angeles since the Dodgers would have home field advantage, but the Padres would not have. So that would have been part of my, thinking as we were looking ahead.
Trust me, I would have loved to go back to New York a couple of times. It would have been fun for me on a personal level, see my parents, see some friends, Mets fan friends, Yankee fan friends.
The way it played out, if the Padres had won, could have been two
would have been
or
really
three
cool.
trips to New York
would have been really
in these last couple of weeks of October for Sam Levitt.
Yes, alas.
I would have loved being in New York with Sammy because we were, as a show, Paulie, likely planning to go and do our shows from New York, from the World Series, if they had made it.
Awesome.
That would have been
You could have done it
from
my parents' house.
Yeah.
right from the porch there on Long Island or wherever. Does it live in Long Island?
Yeah. Right outside of Queens. Yeah.
So anyway, it's great to have Sammy here because we're squeezing extra juice out of an orange that has already been completely squeezed all season.
I'm fine. And look, here's the other thing about the off season. When I was in the minor leagues and I was going back and forth, and I would go to Chicago during the winter. Look, I would do a ton of college sports. I had a college basketball game like I don't know, 4 or 5 per week. Since I moved here, it's slowed down in that sense. So, hey, if you got a college basketball game for me to call and you're listening out there, I am all ears.
Well, we do have a big basketball story from last night that we're going to talk about. Also, a couple of pieces of breaking news since maybe you went to bed last night, including a really sad story in baseball. We'll bring that up when we come back, set the menu. There was also a trade that has gone down, pretty big one in the National Football League this morning. Could affect your fantasy teams, certainly affects the defending Super Bowl champions. Yeah, I know, it gets a little sportsier when Woods isn't here, and I am running the show entirely myself. I mean, not entirely myself. Paulie's running the show. Sammy has his say as well.
I'm glad we were able to get a little foreplay today.
Yeah,
I contributed.
And not just dive into.
Let's be honest. I contributed very, very.
It was
little
let's see. We had Wild Animal Park or Safari Park talk. We had
rats,
mice and rats, and we had Sammy's New York and his schedule over the year.
Not bad. 15 minutes.
I mean, if you were gonna just go right into breaking down the big NFL trade here at 6:04 a.m. on a Wednesday, I would have had to tell everybody what your Halloween costume is that me and Woods got you yesterday.
Well, just save that then, Paulie, because I don't know what it is.
You're covered.
I don't know what it is.
I would love to talk about Halloween.
Oh,
it's coming up
because I'm not a particularly huge fan.
Sammy, you can explore the
You'll
space.
be a huge fan in what Ben's got to wear
this morning for the next 4 hours. Glad to have everybody. Tier 1's with us. Kelly's got traffic, and then we'll be back with the menu and get going here on a Wednesday on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan.
All right, hit me.
Hamul Casino. Fun above all else. Hamul Casino. Fun above all else.
All right, for the third time in about a week, a big-name wide receiver on the move this morning. Welcome back. It is Ben and Sam this morning in for Woods. That's my brother's name is also Sam, so Ben and Sam is something that I heard a lot growing up.
Was it Ben and Sam or Sam and Ben?
And Steve is my middle name and my dad's name, so that's also very common to have Steve and Woods. I don't have a Paul in my family that at least I'm aware of. So you're my fresh Paul that I get to talk to every morning.
You're my only Ben.
There you go. All right. This morning, a little breaking news in the NFL. The Kansas City Chiefs, who've been hit hard by injury at wide receiver, they lost Hollywood Brown in the preseason, Rashee Rice with a season-ending injury in Week 4, and then last week Juju Smith-Schuster went down with a hamstring injury, have acquired, reportedly, DeAndre Hopkins from the Tennessee Titans in exchange for a conditional fourth-round pick. Now, Hopkins is not the DeAndre Hopkins of, yesteryear with the Houston Texans or even a couple of years ago with the Arizona Cardinals. He's now a 12-year veteran and coming off, a knee injury himself in the offseason. But pairing him with, Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid, I would imagine is going to be very good for him, and not trying to catch passes from Will Levis on a 1-5 team makes a big difference. And even if he's not the wide receiver he used to be, this is an upgrade for the Kansas City Chiefs and something they probably needed, Sammy.
And they've proved before that they can make it work without the greatest receiver room, right? They've won Super Bowls. I mean, even last year. I mean, not a great receiving core and had guys step up. So, yeah, look, when you have a guy the caliber of a Patrick Mahomes, it covers up a lot. And a head coach like Andy Reid, it covers up a lot. So I'm with you. Hopkins is not the guy he once was, but getting a competent guy in there, a veteran, should help for sure.
You see the trade.
Yeah.
I woke up, I see the trade, I go, good God, what? And then I'm like, for a fourth-round pick? And then, he's older. He's not DeAndre Hopkins.
It's 15 catches this year for 173 yards. I mean, that's an outstanding game for a superstar, basically, at this point. That's his entire season. But again, Will Levis, Patrick Mahomes, this is his numbers should go up. And honestly, the Chiefs, they're the only undefeated team left. I don't know that they've hugely impressed me at all this season, but they keep winning, and obviously are probably going to be back going to the playoffs with a lot of home games in January, which is a great path to get back to the Super Bowl. So their defense, honestly, it's switched. Remember, they used to be like an offensive juggernaut with shaky defense. Now they get a really strong defensive team, and the offense just needs to kind of get by and get them enough points. But they just keep winning. So that's your
and it's not like there's necessarily, I mean, I know the Ravens look really, really good, but I think Lamar's got to prove it in the playoffs. And, the Texans obviously offensively are very good, but it's not like there's a juggernaut in the AFC.
Nope.
So, look, the Chiefs, when you have Mahomes, it is, I think you can win any game, obviously, especially in the playoffs.
Yeah, this follows the Devontae Adams trade to the Jets and Amari Cooper to
Don't get me started with the Jets.
Bills.
Oh, my Jets.
I wasn't actually start with the Jets.
Absolute disaster. Disaster.
Note to Ben, don't mention Jets again.
Oh, my goodness.
Over the next 4 hours.
Absolute disaster.
Leave that there. I tend to cheer against them now. I used to be kind of an
should.
Aaron Rodgers fan, and now I'm kind of soured on Aaron Rodgers, and I don't really want him to do well. They have so much talent, and you go like, how can you go up against the Steelers, and you're outclassed by a team that is not as good as you.
There were a lot of people that picked them to be the number 1 seed in the AFC. They're bad. Now, I mean, they could turn it around, but they're bad. 2-5.
But you think, okay, well, they must be bad in the trenches. Now you got me talking about the Jets. They have good veteran offensive linemen. Why are they bad?
Stars all over the place.
I have no idea why they're bad.
Not good. And Rodgers has not been great. I'm not saying he's bad, but he is not the same guy, which is understandable. He's 40.
The other breaking story from last night, which may have come down around, 8:30 or 9 o'clock if you missed it, was the passing of Fernando Valenzuela, who, of course, is obviously much more known with the Los Angeles Dodgers and Fernando Mania, but did pitch for the San Diego Padres from 1995 through 1997. He was a big part, kind of the fifth starter on the 1996 team that won the division and beat the Dodgers out at the end of the season. Had a really special moment. That team went to Monterrey, Mexico to play the first ever regular season game in Mexico, I believe against the Mets, and Fernando pitched and got the win in that game and, was saluted. He really opened the door to Major League Baseball for Mexico, and he made the sport much more popular when he arrived on the scene with the Dodgers in 1981. And, we're not obviously Dodgers fans on this program. Hard not to like Fernando Valenzuela. When I was growing up, I was 6 when Fernando Mania hit, just kind of starting to understand, baseball and watch it. And certainly, as a pitcher, you had to try the old, I was right-handed, he was left-handed, but the old look up, away. No one ever taught, you always said, focus in on the target, right, Paulie, when you're a pitcher? Focus on the target, look at the catcher's mitt. And Fernando does this thing where he rolls his eyes up in the back of his head and looks up to the sky in the middle of his delivery, and you go, how could that possibly work? But I must have tried that in the driveway a million times, just thinking, that is so cool that he does this odd delivery through a screwball, which was, still, other than Brent Honeywell, not a pitch you ever see. And I did not remember, and I saw it on the post last night from, I think it was Jeff Passett, who put his first 8 starts, just the game logs from his first 8 starts that launched Fernando Mania. It was unbelievable. He was 8-0 with 5 shutouts, 8 complete games, and I think his ERA was 0.5 after the first 8 starts of his career. You thought Paul Skeens got off to a good start this year. Got nothing on what Fernando did as a rookie in 1981 with the Los Angeles Dodgers.
The 1981, and I saw that tweet from Passon, and then I'm looking at 1981. It really is remarkable. A 2.48 ERA in 25 starts. He wins Cy Young, Rookie of the Year, and the World Series. That's talk about an unbelievable rookie season. We talked about the season of Skeens. So, look, I certainly, obviously, growing up, heard of Fernando Mania, and I think since moving to the West Coast, I've gained a bigger understanding of what Fernando Valenzuela meant. I saw him in the press box a lot because he was part of the Dodgers Spanish language radio broadcast. And I remember the first time I texted my dad and said, hey, for Fernando, I'm sitting right next to Fernando Valenzuela. And my dad was like, wow, talk about just star power and so important to the game. So he'll be missed.
If I'm not mistaken, he is not in the Hall of Fame.
No.
Which, now that I kind of look at his impact and his numbers, I kind of wonder why. Obviously, he didn't put up the 300 wins in his career. He dealt with injuries after 5 or 6 seasons. He wasn't ever quite the same pitcher and bounced around with several teams in the 1990s after he left the Dodgers. But in terms of impact on the game, especially in an entire country, there's certainly an argument to be made. The Dodgers did retire his number, which they don't do unless you're in the Hall of Fame, except they made an exception for Fernando Valenzuela. So obviously he means quite a great deal to that organization. And,
he's in the Mexican Professional Baseball Hall of Fame, and I'm looking on his resume here. 6-time All-Star.
He is
World Series champion.
Mexican
Cy
Baseball
Young
Hall
winner,
of Fame, number
Rookie
1 guy.
of the Year, Gold Glove.
He's got a lot.
Silver Slugger Award.
Oh yeah, he was a really good hitter too.
2 of them.
And not the picture of what you think like a great athlete is. He's a little round shaped and not what you'd think about when you talk about like a top professional athlete, but he was a really good hitter, good fielder, just did a lot of things really well. So I guess if someone had to say nice things about the Dodger and a Dodger, that's probably going to be me on this show. But that was sad last night to hear about that, and didn't see any cause of death. He obviously stepped away at the end of the season when the Padres were playing the Dodgers. I think they were playing the Dodgers at the end of the regular season when they announced that he was stepping away to focus on his health, but they never really announced what he was dealing with. But obviously, it apparently was something pretty serious. So,
well, Woodsy would be the arbiter here if he were here. Is it Dodger loving? Do we give him the Ben and Woods?
I think he deserves it, and I think Woodsy would be okay with it, especially because he pitched for the Padres for 3 seasons as well.
And I really hope we can see more unity and more peace when already things are so difficult. So, shout out to his family.
There it is for Fernando Valenzuela, passing away at the age of 63. All right, a little overdue for a timeout. Just quickly on the menu today, it is a Big League Wednesday. Sammy, I'm glad you're here for that. That means we get to talk to both Adam Jones and Bret Boone.
Yeah, whose brother is managing the World Series.
Which is very timely.
Yes.
He also can talk some hockey because apparently he was at the Ducks game last night. I saw a picture of Bret Boone up at the Ducks game with his dad, Bob, I believe, last night. They kind of honored them like on the ice.
I want to get to a
before
Ducks
the game. So it's fun. I've been to a few of them.
I want to root on the Ducks.
Little hockey action for you. So we will have both of those guys on the program today. When we come back, I want to get some Sammy end-of-season thoughts on the San Diego Padres, what A.J. Preller had to say earlier this week. And if we have time, Aaron Judge had some comments about Shohei Ohtani yesterday that maybe just kind of stop and go, wait. He said, what did he say about Shohei Ohtani? We'll get to that coming up after a check. No traffic. We'll just come back next on 97.3 The Fan. Well, with Sam Levitt in studio this morning, in for Stephen Woods. Obviously, we're going to talk some Padres baseball coming up here. And no big revelations. We already kind of went through all of the A.J. Preller sound yesterday from his Monday Zoom. Like zero news other than
They will be talking.
they will be talking in the next 2 weeks. There will be more done in the next 2 weeks in the front office of the San Diego Padres than most people do in an entire year. Packing everything into the next 2 weeks.
I will say, as we were sitting on the Zoom, and look, I had nothing else to do, so I'm just sitting there and listening to the questions. At some point, I was kind of like, what more is there to ask about, right? Like we've
Why did that last 45
I
minutes
don't
was what
really
I was asking
know.
myself.
But I enjoy listening to AJ talk, and it's, hey, it's the last time we'll hear from him until
the problem is us.
whenever.
It's
So.
the reporters who enjoy hearing the sound of their own voice asking questions at some point.
It was
Like,
totally fun.
You know you're not going to get an answer, so
Right.
why are we still here?
Well, and it also, I think also it's for stories, like so you can write multiple stories
Sure.
about multiple
you know you're not
things.
going to get to talk. Ideally, you
Until
go,
the
okay, we'll
winter
catch up with
meetings,
you again in 2
maybe,
weeks,
yeah.
and we'll get the update. But they won't. You won't be able to catch up with them in 2 weeks.
It is maybe the last time you'll hear from AJ on record
until the winter meetings.
meetings.
When he
Maybe,
does
unless
his-
they make a move.
when he
Yeah.
does his like GM's news conference.
Right.
At which point he will say, we'll probably in the next 2 weeks get a lot more done. Right now, we've been laying the foundation for a lot of stuff. He'll just keep pushing it down the road.
And I guess with AJ, like he's so active in the stuff that actually matters, right? In the making moves part of it, the news making part of it, in that sense, that I think you're okay
I
with.
do believe there will be some news coming out soon, though, and it was the thing that was actually substantially discussed on Monday from AJ, and I want to talk about it with Sammy right after a check of traffic here on 97.3 The Fan.
From the 97.3 The Fan Traffic Center, here's Kelly Danick.
Traffic is sponsored by Ulta Beauty. Well, guys, that northbound 805 is having a rough go of it this morning. We've got a stalled car blocking the right lane on the northbound side right before the 15. Now, up ahead before the 8, crash involving a motorcycle blocking the fast lane. Then, up ahead at Murray Ridge, accident being cleared out of middle lanes. Thinking that northbound 5 might be a better choice. Although, northbound 5 before the 163, we do have reports of a stalled vehicle blocking the slow lane. The Emerald City came to Ulta Beauty with wicked collaborations from REM Beauty by Ariana Grande. It brushes for Ulta and OPI Korean. These fantabulous products won't last long. See Wicked November 22nd, only in theaters. Ulta Beauty. The possibilities are beautiful. I'm Kelly Danick with Ben and Wood, San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan.
So one thing that AJ did acknowledge is that, talks with Mike Shildt and his coaching staff about contract extensions were likely fairly imminent and one of the first orders of business this offseason. And I don't know if you saw it, but Kevin Acey of the UT wrote a analysis piece that's in the paper this morning about why he believes they should go ahead and give Mike Shildt the contract extension. It's funny because he starts it with the line, it can be a trap to offer extensions and long-term deals to managers and coaches, which I get, Sam, because if something goes wrong, like no one was worried about Bob Melvin going from 2022 to 2023, right?
Yeah.
Nobody at all was thinking, oh, well, Padres may have to fire their manager or get rid of their manager at the end of the year. But if something goes wrong, you can't get rid of all the players. You can only get rid of the manager. So why needlessly add lots of years onto a contract that you may just have to buy out if things go poorly? But after acknowledging that, Kevin basically goes through all the all the good things that have happened with Mike Shildt. 93 wins, an offense that has turned around, a philosophy, players buying in, a feeling that obviously we haven't seen on a Padres team in a long time. And whether you want to credit the players more or Mike Shildt for bringing it together, it has come under his leadership, his stewardship, and the Padres have not had continuity in the dugout with, managers in a long time. It's been a revolving door during AJ's tenure ever since letting Buddy Black go. It's like, hey, 2 years and someone else. Jay Stingler, Andy Green. We just keep moving on from managers. And at some point, you'd like to hopefully settle down with someone for at least more than, 2 years or 2+ years. And that's the idea here with Mike Shildt.
Yeah, and I thought, AJ said during that press conference, essentially, you want to find people with ability and then have stability. And I think there's a lot of truth to that. And look, you don't want situations, ideally, where you have a Bob Melvin type situation where you're right. It went very quickly from Bob is no doubt the guy to in a calendar year, he was off to San Francisco. And you're right, it can change very, very quickly depending on what your team does, how they play, what they accomplish, what the expectations are. Reality is I don't think there's any way that you can have Mike Shildt start next season without having more years on his deal. That would seem crazy, I think, to all
That's
of
correct.
us. So, I'm sure they are going to, quote unquote, line up on whatever deal they need to and get it done. I don't see any way where they don't.
Is there any reason, because Kevin didn't list one, actually. I was kind of surprised on the analysis, like the cons. You list the pros of Mike Shildt. Is there a con? Is there any reason to be hesitant about Mike Shildt going forward? When the Padres were 50-50 in the middle of the season, I know that as a fan base, there was some eye rolling at the relentless positivity and like, come on, Mike. Does everything have to be?
There was a ton of eye rolling.
The
and then
silver lining.
It hit a point where you go, no, this is who he is. This is who he is as a manager, and you're not going to change it no matter what you ask him. He's not going to throw his guys under the bus ever.
And because they started winning and turning it around, it obviously felt like, okay, well, he was right, and all that about getting better as the season goes on seems to have come true. He has never had a bad season, essentially, as a manager. He's won over 90 games in all of his full seasons with now the Cardinals and the Padres. There really aren't a lot of red flags or negatives when it comes to Mike Shildt dealing with the players. I mean, obviously you can, a bullpen decision or two, the decision to start Dylan Cease. I don't even know how much that's Mike Shildt or holistic decisions with
I
the
think
organization.
It's probably more holistic.
It's hard to come up with a reason not to do this, which is why I would assume it's going to happen sooner rather than later.
Yeah, look, I think with this stuff, you always run the risk of things going south. It can happen, and it can happen really quickly, as we learned with Bob Melvin. But, when you have a guy that I think performed the way he performed and got the results they got last year, to me, you quote-unquote run that risk, and I don't think you worry about it much.
The one question that was never answered, really, still, is why did the Cardinals let him go? It's never totally been 100% addressed. And I don't think it's an issue now with the San Diego Padres. He's moved on. Whatever happened there is in his past, and he has moved on with the Padres organization. He's bought in with AJ. They work together well. Kevin talked about that. AJ finally found someone that, is going to be okay with the kind of general manager that he is. And they have worked together, and there hasn't been any sign of any friction at all, like there was immediately with Bob Melvin. So, yeah, I would think that that's one of the first things we will see this offseason.
I would think. I don't know if they'll formally announce it, but whatever, extensions coaching-wise, we know Ruben Niebla needs a new contract. I don't know if they would announce that. To be honest with you, would they formally even announce a Mike Shildt extension? I don't.
Probably just a press release.
I know if I was Mike Shildt, I would want it to be announced.
Yeah.
I wouldn't just want.
I would. Yeah.
I don't want everyone to think I'm in the last year of my contract. I want it to be announced.
Right. Yeah. I would
bet
think
it's a press release, and then the Bob Nightingales and Jeff Passan.
Right. I don't think any
post it
press
out.
conference,
Probably
but a press release. Yeah. Even for your coaching staff too, if it's kind of public knowledge that you have some guys like Ruben that are up. Look, I'm a huge fan of Ruben. I thought it was an interesting question during the press conference about his future as a manager. I think Ruben obviously could 100% be a manager somewhere. I think he's got the knowledge, the ability, the temperament. I think he's got all of it. So that could be a fascinating question for the Padres moving forward in general. Is at what point is he going to start, getting mentioned in those conversations and getting interviews and things like that? Good problem to have.
I agree with you. He's only been a pitching coach for 3 years, though. And to me, it's probably the next, he'll have one more contract as a pitching coach, hopefully with the Padres.
Yeah.
And if the Padres do well the next couple of seasons, I would fully expect him to be a managerial candidate for some open jobs by 2026. I don't necessarily see him getting a job this offseason, though, as a manager.
Yeah, it seems like Ruben loves it here too. And look, I would suppose that the goal would be, if that were to ever happen at some point, that Ruben went and was a manager somewhere, that hopefully you have the infrastructure where it's next man up, right? That it's, whoever is next on the list, at whatever point that comes. So,
I just hope that Ben Fritz, whose contract
Absolutely,
is also
yeah.
up and is important in the coaching staff.
Fritzy.
yes.
He gets his, because I need my hugs from Ben. Every time we see each other, Ben always gives me a gigantic hug.
He gives good Ben hugs.
Yeah, he is huge hugs.
Not as good a Ben hug.
No, I'm not the hugger. He knows that it makes me a little uncomfortable, so he immediately beckons me over for a giant hug every time
I will say,
I see him.
I've seen you guys get very, very good reactions from the coaching staff. I think there's a lot of tier ones in that clubhouse. That staff.
We do have a good relationship
Yes.
with a lot of the coaches.
Well, why wouldn't they be listening? Of course they're listening.
Like scouts that are tier ones
Yes.
of the Padres that we run into all the time. Sometimes we don't even know it. Like, who was it? Was it Woods or you who ran into someone recently? He goes, I'm actually a scout for the Padres. I listen to the show all the time. It's like, great. Glad to have you on board as a tier
Right.
one.
Yeah.
Didn't even know. I mean, a lot of times you don't meet a lot of the scouts because they have their areas
Absolutely.
and they're out of town working in a different part of the country a lot of the
And
time.
it's not just the Padres either. It's no secret here on this show. We are very close with Skip Schumacher, former manager of
Right.
the Miami Marlins. His whole coaching staff, he turned the whole staff onto the Ben and Woods show. They'd just be in their offices,
required listening if you're a
watching
Miami
on
Marlin
YouTube
the last
every
couple
morning.
of years, for sure.
You make a good point on the scouts. There are a lot of very high level people in that organization that you don't see physically, like
Ever.
a lot. Now,
Yeah.
sometimes it's spring training,
training,
they're around
yes.
a little
Yeah.
bit more
Yeah, sure.
because there's so much stuff going on there with the minor leaguers. And look, there's just so many offices there for the team. But yeah, like some people that are very, very important to the Padres that, you do not see around because they're out doing their job. Scouting's not a thing where like you're sitting in San Diego or sitting in Peoria. You're everywhere.
To AJ's credit, and he did it again on Monday, he gives more praise and credit to his scouts than I think I've ever heard of any other general manager. I mean, everyone has platitudes. Hey, I work with a good team, couldn't do it without my team, but he specifically calls out guys and, says, this is, I am always listening. These guys, everyone has ideas, and then we just choose whatever we think is the best idea
Right.
among all of these scouts. And, they find a lot of the players that AJ ends up getting credit for. The Seth Lugo. Oh yeah, I absolutely knew it. That's his scouts that are doing a lot of that work as well. AJ may have the final decision, but
Right.
he can't do that without his team, and he's got a big quality team.
Yeah, he's got it. Well, it comes from that scouting background, right?
All right, I do want to get to the Aaron Judge comments on Shohei Ohtani.
I don't know that I know what you're talking about, so I'm
All
interested
right,
to hear.
but I can't wait any longer. Woods got me so excited about the start of basketball season last night, and then we had the moment in the Lakers game that had been talked about for, honestly, years by LeBron. And it finally happened, and it was pretty cool last night. We'll get to that and take on John next. Oh, I just got an update. Woodsy's in line at Disneyland for parking, so they are early. They're going to be rope dropping at the Magic Kingdom this morning. Welcome back. Luckily for us, we got Sam Levitt in studio today. I found out that Sammy has never been to Disneyland. That is so sad.
Wow.
Sam.
I know.
So
I've been
sad.
to Disney World.
That doesn't count.
A couple of times. But but my impression without having ever gone to Disneyland is that Disney World was far bigger and better.
That's incorrect. But
You
we
really-
can,
well, is
we
that
can
true,
discuss that
though?
later. I've been to Disney World. It is far bigger and far worse, in my opinion.
Okay, but it is far bigger.
It is far bigger.
Okay.
And much, much
I mean,
worse.
I'm
Yeah.
not like a Disney.
No, I'm a
adult,
Southern California
so
homer.
I
but,
believe you. I'd be happy to embrace Disneyland as
you
the better
need to
Disney.
do. I know you're an adult now, but you need to do an entire day doing Magic Kingdom and California Adventure.
You know
and
what?
Tell
Hold
me,
on. I got a text here
tell
from
me
my
what you
dad.
think.
My dad says I was there. I was 10.
Oh, so you have
So apparently I have been.
You don't remember 10 years old?
made such an
I
impression
guess,
on you.
Well, the
If he was
first
like you were 3 years old, I'd
the
understand.
first time we were here, I remember that trip a little bit. I do not remember going to Disneyland. So apparently I have been.
Wow.
Oops.
Sammy's childhood trauma now coming back to the forefront.
Disney World, I remember. I don't. But Disney World, that's the thing, is like you go down. It was for, whatever it was, a few days up to a week. I think Disneyland must have been, that was probably part of our California
No,
trip.
we'll table that discussion because I do want to get to I want to get to last night's moment at Crypto.com Arena, and we have Take on John coming up. He usually comes over a little early, so if you want to be a contestant this morning in our contest, taking on John from down the hall at KSON, you can call us 833-288-0973. This morning, we're actually giving away San Diego State, Washington State tickets for Saturday night at Snapdragon Stadium, a game I will be at. So maybe you will see me out there if you win those tickets to the game at Snapdragon Stadium on Saturday night. But call in now, 833-288-0973, and you can take on John, who, by the way, is starting to get a little overconfident. He thinks he's better at this game than Woods. And we're going to, at some point, do a Tournament of Champions, Clash of the Titans between Woods and
Needs to
John.
happen.
But John thinks he can take down Woods. So we'll see. We got a mystery category specifically for John and our listeners today. So that's coming up. First of all, though, I knew what was coming. We all knew it was coming. I told you, there's no way they're not going to get Bronny into the game last night because J.J. Redick, they're smart enough that they don't want the question being asked every single game. Is this tonight the night? Are you finally going to get him in? Are they going to do it? They had to do it and get it over with. And honestly, kind of went as I expected. A couple of minutes, didn't play again. But what I think I was unprepared for was, and Paulie, tell me that I'm wrong, what a cool and emotional moment it was to see LeBron and his son check into a game together at the same time.
That was cool.
It was cool, wasn't it?
I don't think it didn't really matter how it happened to me. I just kind of pictured LeBron's going to already be on the court, and then you'll hear, checking in LeBron James Jr. or Bronny or whatever. But for them to both be on the bench and then come in at the same time, rip off the warm-ups was pretty freaking cool. I mean, the whole night was just awesome. Like, we talked about it yesterday. The Griffies were going to be in attendance, the only father-son combo to ever play in any sport together, and at least the major sports. And then when, you're showing the pregame footage of the four of them sitting there on the court talking, I'm like, that's going to be one of the cooler photos you'll see in sports.
I really didn't think anything would top the Griffies, and maybe it hasn't. The fact that they legitimately were, playing together in a lineup, back-to-back home runs, one of the coolest things in the history of sports.
It wasn't like low A ball and Griffey Sr. was just coming down for a ceremonial appearance or anything like that. That was on the big league level.
But at that point, Ken Griffey Jr. was such a hyped, huge star prospect. And I think we already knew he was probably going to be better than his dad, at some point. This hit a little differently for me, knowing that LeBron is the legend of this duo, but having to be the dad and truly be the dad and watch that moment. And maybe it's the fact that I'm a dad now. I wasn't when, Griffey's obviously were doing their thing, but just having that moment with your son on the court just it got to me for a second. And, he didn't score. He had that one moment where he had a The little pass from LeBron for an open three, and it looked good on the way. I mean, I think that arena was ready to just absolutely blow up. And I don't know how much he'll get in the next few games. Didn't come back in. Lakers did win. They looked pretty good, actually. Anthony Davis was awesome. But I just thought it was a really cool moment.
It was fun. Like, I'm not a Lakers fan at all. I've always been a LeBron James fan. And just, like, as soon as they checked in, like, there was even a moment where, like, LeBron had the ball and Bronny was kind of coming around behind him, avoiding a screen. And, like, they just handed the ball off to each other and then back to LeBron. And I'm like, that is so cool. A father and a son. Like, I don't know that anybody ever thought that would ever happen in basketball. Like, it's only happened once in baseball, and I think baseball is probably the easiest sport, or the most likely where it could happen. I don't know that anybody ever saw this happening.
Yeah, I mean, even Tony Gwynn Jr. was only like a year or so after his dad retired. I mean, it wasn't that far away, but to have a long enough basketball career like LeBron into his 22nd opening day for LeBron James, and then have a kid who, was born essentially when he was, his first or second NBA season, and now playing together. It's remarkable. And I thought I was going to be a little cynical about it because LeBron's been talking about this for
a long time,
like 3 years, going, come on, your kid's in high school. Let's not put the cart in front of the horse here. But then it actually came true. And whether or not you think Bronny deserved it or deserved to be drafted after one, season at USC.
That's a stupid talking point. Everybody knows that, like, Bronny would not have gotten drafted if he wasn't LeBron James' son. And he certainly wouldn't have gotten playing minutes yesterday on opening night. The 56th pick in the draft. Like, those guys don't get minutes, especially on opening night. Everybody knows what was happening, but sometimes when you have a player like LeBron James or Michael Jordan or whoever, like, they transcend the game for just a moment. I think, Skip Bayless might have had an issue with it, and everybody else, it's like, just enjoy the moment.
Yeah, and Bronny didn't look completely out of, overmatched on the court. He looked a little small compared to some of the other guys out there, which I think is going to be a problem going forward. But it didn't look like he was in over his head at any moment.
I think it's the acceptance, like you were saying, Paulie, about what the reality of the situation is. Like, if you want to look at it as, well, Bronny wouldn't have got drafted if he isn't LeBron's son, fine. But he is LeBron's son, and it was a late second-round pick. And this was clearly a goal of LeBron to play with his son, and it's kind of worth it for the cool moment. And you know what? I think LeBron has sort of earned that right to have that moment with his son, and it's a pretty unique situation. I
was listening to Tony Gwynn Jr. a little bit yesterday about this, and obviously he thinks it's pretty cool. He's a Lakers fan, and he's the son of a legend who then played. Now, Tony was a really good college baseball player, and absolutely was going to get drafted. His name was Tony Smith. He was going to get drafted. Now, he went in the second round, and I wonder if he ever thought. I wonder if my name being Gwynn moved me up a little bit on the charts as opposed to just, being someone else, which is fine. There's no reason that he should feel bad about that if that is the case at all. But, his dad was drafted in the third round. He was drafted in the second round, of the draft. And I think the name probably had something to do with it. And again, not taking anything away from Tony. He was a fantastic player at San Diego State. He was going to get drafted.
There was a really cool moment in the game yesterday. And again, if it's anybody else and another player, it's a very nothing moment. Guys are mic'd up in the NBA all the time. Guys talk to each other on the bench. For me, just seeing a father and a son in an NBA game was so cool. And there was a moment yesterday when LeBron, I think they're coming back from commercial break, and they just said, moments ago, and LeBron was mic'd up and he's talking to Bronny, who's about to go into the game for his very first time.
All ready? All right. You see the intensity, right? Just play carefree, though. Don't worry about mistakes. Just go out and play hard.
You ready?
Awesome.
Don't worry about the intensity.
Yeah, just bring the intensity. Don't worry about the mistakes. Just go out and play hard. So this last bit of advice. That was really cool. All right, I see Johnny out there. I think we got a contestant on the line. If you're on hold, stay there because we're about to play. We'll take on John. Just random. I don't have a name here. Caller, who's this?
Scott.
Scott? Are you calling in for Take on Woods? All right. You are a
Sure,
contestant today. It's actually take on John. You're going to have a chance to win some tickets to the Aztecs-Washington State game this Saturday night at Snapdragon Stadium. You can get your own tickets at goaztecs.com. 5 questions, you against John. You're going to go up first. He's standing by outside our studio. He'll come in after you go. And if you can beat or tie him, we will hook you up with the tickets. Now, today, because it's John, I have a special mystery category for both of you. So you're going in the dark. He's going in the dark. No advantage, no disadvantage. Just 5 questions, 60 seconds. With our first questions, our 2-second song. You need to give me the title and the artist, and then you try to figure out what all of these answers have in common. Scott, are you ready to play?
Sure am.
All right. Paulie, are you ready to go? All right, here we go.
I'm ready.
Sammy, feel free to play along as well. 60 seconds on the clock. Our mystery category. Scott, your time begins when Paul plays the music. Good luck. Let's take on John.
The beat is on.
Incorrect. Let's try this one. Which country music Hall of Famer took a gamble when he opened up a chain of fast casual chicken restaurants in the 1990s?
Kenny Rogers.
Correct. Born with the last name of Gorlick, which musician from Seattle took up the saxophone at age 10?
Kenny G.
Correct. Which country music star married actress Renee Zellweger in May of 2005? They had the marriage annulled in December of that same year. You can pass if you don't know it. What is the real name of 12-time Grammy Award-winning R&B artist Babyface?
Pass. The first one's Heat is on, though.
It's still not the Heat is on. Which country star married actress Renee Zellweger in May of 2005? They had the marriage annulled in December of that same year. What did your answer? All right, so the answers, they had something in common because you got Kenny Rogers and Kenny G. 2 points. Hang on the line, Scott. It was Danger Zone by Kenny Loggins. Sammy knew that one.
Well, I didn't know the name of the artist. I knew the song.
Kenny Chesney was the country artist who married Renee Zellweger, and Kenneth Edmonds is Babyface. They're all Kennys in our category today. All right, let's bring in John. Scott, hang on the line. We'll see how you do here. Welcome, John. It is good to see you again. We have our contestant on the line, Scott. His score is locked in.
Go ahead.
We're going to get the camera followed
Just
Sam.
the camera
but let's
loves Sam.
Yeah, camera does love Sam.
I don't blame it.
John, how have you been?
I've been good. I finally got over my Padres hangover.
Yeah, still got your Padres sweatshirt on.
Of course
I, like
I do. First time I've worn it since the Friday loss. By the way, R.I.P. Fernando Venezuela.
Yes, we talked about
respect.
that earlier. I feel the same way.
Mad respect. Come on,
like
man.
maybe my favorite Dodger ever. Like
bar none, and he was a Padre too.
Yeah, and he was.
For a cup of coffee.
All right, this is a mystery category, so you don't get you get to figure it out as you go.
Okay.
All right, 60 seconds on the clock. Your time begins when Paul plays the music. Good luck, John. Let's take on Scott.
Danger Zone, Kenny Loggins.
Correct. Which country music Hall of Famer took a gamble when he opened up a chain of fast casual
Kenny
chicken?
Rogers.
Correct. Born with the last name of Gorlick, which musician from Seattle took up the saxophone at age 10?
Kenny G.
Correct. Which country star married actress Renee Zellweger in
Kenny
May?
Chesney.
Correct. What's the real name of 12-time Grammy Award-winning R&B artist Babyface?
Kenneth Babyface Edmonds.
Yes!
Wow.
Oh, you know what? I talked about John getting kind of confident in this game and that he wants to take on Woods at some point. That was an impressive performance.
Thank you.
Again, John.
Guys named Ken or Kenneth obviously is the theme, correct?
It was. All
right.
Kennys for you.
All right.
Scott, thank you for playing.
Sorry, Scott.
Did not work out for you today. There was a couple of country names in there that didn't hurt.
That was a softball.
Coming from over where you come from. But
That was a softball, especially the joke. I'm sorry, the marriage between Kenny Chesney and Renee Zellweger.
But what's the story there?
Well, I mean
it was
there's-
annulled,
there's-
so obviously there was something going on.
There's rumors swirling about that will always remain
Just rumors.
unsubstantiated.
Okay.
But I will say that Kenny was a guy that I think he thought he needed to get married.
True.
And Renee thought it was kind of cool because she was kind of the
it was
hippest
more
thing
of a
in-
marriage of Hollywood convenience.
I think they
than
realized pretty
true
quickly,
love.
both of them, that
Got it.
that this was not going to be a match made in heaven.
All right.
But,
Thank you, John. Good to see
All
you.
right.
Thanks for stopping by.
Awesome.
Another
Thanks, guys.
another
See you, buddy.
victory. He is setting the stage for an epic clash someday soon against Woodsy for sure. All right, we've got Don't Do This coming up next. Sammy, let's see. What do I've got? All right, I thought there was since we were just talking about LeBron and Bronny, There's a pretty cool Nike. Did anyone see the Nike commercial that came out yesterday with the two of
Yes.
them? I thought it was pretty funny. We might throw that in do this when we come back next after traffic here on 97.3 The Fan.
Hamul Casino. Fun above all else.
right, here we go. Black 17 on. That is lined up. All right, hit me.
Hamul Casino. Fun above all else.
Have Adam Jones joining us in about 10 minutes. Preview the World Series with AJ on a Big League Wednesday. Looking forward to that. First, little DDT. Sam Levitt in here on a Wednesday for Woodsy. And I'm going to start with a story from the NFL, Sammy. We didn't get to it yesterday, but I did want to bring it up. So, Tua, quarterback of the Miami Dolphins, Tua Tagovailoa, is back at practice and is expected to start this week after suffering yet another concussion. I think it was the third of his NFL career and fourth really big one since college.
Yeah.
And he's been out the last few weeks, put him on injured reserve, but he is, beyond his symptoms and cleared for return. However, Tua did announce yesterday when he was asked, or 2 days ago when he was asked, that he will not be wearing they call it the Guardian cap. It's the add-on on top of the helmet, like a little foam padding that gives you some extra protection against concussion impact. And he simply said, personal choice, not going to wear it.
Yeah.
And then kind of went on to say, and I mean, this is his right, but he said, well, how much risk do we take when we get up in the morning to go drive to work, get into a car crash? I don't know. Everything, I think, takes risk. So to answer that question, every time we all suit up, we're all taking a risk that we could potentially get hurt, whether it's a concussion, a broken bone, anything. Well, I understand his argument. That's like saying, well, I mean, I'm not going to wear a seatbelt in the car. It's just, it's just foolish not to do that.
It seems foolish.
There's no, as far as I know, you can't, if you're wearing a Guardian cap, you can't tell you're wearing it. It's not, doesn't get in your vision.
Right.
It's just simply an added layer of protection. The only reason someone wouldn't wear it, as far as I understand, looks a little goofy.
Yeah.
And, you know, that, to me, I don't know why they don't all just wear it every single game.
I don't know why they don't make like a helmet that incorporates whatever that is.
Just puts it in. And they have made better helmets that do incorporate some of it. But, I mean, if you can add, they say NFL has cited studies that a concussion impact is reduced by 10% with a Guardian cap and 20% if two of them. It's not perfect. It's not a panacea. You're not going to take concussions out of the game of football just with this. But there's something you can do that is going to, well, I mean, the same thing happened when they introduced helmets to the NHL. And they've grandfathered in players who started playing without helmets. They said, if you want to continue your career without one, go ahead. But why would you not? I mean, it's just the chance that you get a skate on the head or a puck on the head and you could have something protecting you seems pretty obvious. But some guys just don't want to do it.
Seems foolish. Look, it is his choice if he doesn't want to wear it. I guess they can't force him to wear it, but it seems with the severity of his concussions in particular, it seems foolish not to take extra precaution.
I don't think he meant any ill will with his comments.
I don't think so either.
But that clip going around, I appreciate your concern, but I love this sport. I'm going to play it till the death of me. Or what? I might have misquoted him there, but it was something along those lines.
Yeah.
And I go, man, I don't know that I would have said that.
Well, it also sets like sort of a weird precedent because he probably isn't going to be the last guy to have really bad concussion issues.
Right.
So I think the problem for the NFL and for him is when you have a situation like that, especially a quarterback who's incredibly important to your franchise, what do you do? How do you treat that? And how do you balance his health and his health as a human versus playing football? But I agree with you. I think it's kind of foolish not to take a precaution that could maybe prevent you from having another concussion.
Just quickly on the same topic of helmets, I don't know if either of you saw this. I was watching college football on Saturday, and I think it was the University of Illinois. And they had painted, it was like a special game, and they had painted their helmets to look like the old leather helmets from like the 1920s and 30s. Actually looked really cool.
Yeah, it was cool.
They were real helmets. They just looked like the old leather.
I was watching
helmets.
that game. The most shocking thing, aside from really how cool the helmets look, was Illinois was #1, a ranked team, and then beating
All
Michigan.
right. Cameron brings up a point that I hadn't considered in our chat, in our YouTube stream. Guardian caps have some weight to them. Doesn't really affect a tight end or an offensive lineman. For a quarterback, scanning left to right and back, maybe it could make more of a difference than just looking goofy. All right, that maybe is a fair point. Quarterbacks have a lot on their plate, and if there's just even a tiny bit of difference, I can see maybe that's a legitimate argument. All right, how does a do this turn into a don't do this? Last night, the Boston Celtics opened the NBA season. They raised their 18th championship banner, got their championship rings, and then went out and put together a dominating performance against one of the teams that a lot of people thought might challenge them this year, the New York Knicks, with the moves that they had made, adding Karl-Anthony Towns. Celtics just blew their doors off by making three-pointer after three-pointer, 17 of them in the first half, and then 12 more in the first, 15 minutes of the second half. So they're at 29. That is the NBA record for three-pointers. Still 8 minutes and 50 seconds left in the game, and everybody at TD Garden knows. One more three. They're chanting, one more three. They know this record is going down tonight. There's no way this record is not going to fall on this special opening night where you get your rings and you raise your banner. Except they could not make another one. They kept firing them up. Time after time. Brick, air ball, brick, brick. And when the final buzzer sounded, the Celtics had gone 0 for their last 13 from three-point range and had to settle for tying. I think it was the Timberwolves record of 29 made three-pointers in a game.
It was one of those things like in any other situation, they would have just dribbled the ball, passed, maybe chucked up a shot right at the end, but you're just running the clock for those last couple of minutes. No, they were trying to hit threes. They were trying to get open looks.
They wanted that record.
The whole arena was just waiting for it, and it never
Pressure's
happened.
a funny thing because you think, hey, we're up by 30 points. What's the big deal?
Right.
But you knew the record was on the line. All of a sudden,
And then they finally had the possession at the end.
could not hit water if they fell out of a boat, like Tommy Lasorda said of Kurt Bavacqua.
So
Crazy.
how many did they score last night?
So
Even
they
with missing
made
all the threes?
They made 29 and
final
scored
score.
132
Wow.
points, I think, and then missed their
So
last
imagine
13.
had they hit.
I mean, just the percentage they were hitting close
hit
to 50%.
even 4 of the 13.
They should have made
Would've been
6 or
140.
7 more
Yeah.
of those and, scored 150 points in the game.
Yeah.
But
By the way, another one of my teams, disaster last night, the Knicks.
all right, quickly, because we got Adam Jones coming up. Do this. I mentioned it
mega
in the last segment. We talked about LeBron and Bronny. Nike, of course, trying to take advantage of the moment. They released an ad yesterday. It was kind of funny if you saw it. It is basically LeBron goes out into the driveway and he's pouring Fruity Pebbles into Bronny's BMW through the sky roof, and then he hides and Bronny comes out and opens, and these Fruity Pebbles just start pouring out of the car. And then Bronny gets in his car and he goes, "Don't be late to practice, Rook. Hey, and clean up my driveway. That's a mess." I only bring it up because I love Fruity Pebbles. I mean,
Really?
I rarely
LeBron
let
has a
myself have
shoe
them.
That's designed to
Like
look
Fruity,
like
he must.
Pebbles.
Do you think he likes Fruity Pebbles too? Yeah, they're guilty pleasure of mine when it comes to cereals.
I'll get you those LeBrons maybe for your birthday.
Thanks.
Would you wear you don't really wear
I'm not a shoe
basketball
guy.
shoes? Yeah.
I wear flip flops every single day, Sammy. Every day. Of my
Then
life.
in brand new cool basketball shoes.
So
would
does
be
Chris
weird.
Ello. Chris Ello also. I think I've only seen Chris in flip flops in this building.
Yeah. Well, he and I both have large calves, so we wear the shorts, show them off. And when you wear shorts, flip-flops really are the choice, because otherwise it's weird because you got socks and shorts on, and that does not look good. So it's kind of just a style choice that I make in the mornings.
I don't do flip flops. I do the Birkenstocks. I tried when I
Yeah,
first
it's
moved here. Those
very East Coast
those
of you.
rainbow flip flops.
Yeah.
I don't like the between the toes.
Yeah, you got to get used to it. But
Like-
once you do,
like
it's
the
way better.
Birkenstocks.
Way better than Birkenstocks. I don't like the straps all over my feet.
You could argue the flip flops are a better look. The Birkenstocks, yeah. They
And
were,
that
they were a
is-
big thing in summer camp, though. That's when I got put on Birkenstocks.
Summer camp. That's a
We
East
could talk-
Coast thing
oh,
as
we
well,
could talk
isn't it?
about
I don't want to
that.
hear
Hear
some
some
All
summer
right,
We
camp
can
Sammy,
talk about
stories.
summer camp.
coming up on Ben and Woods
8
after
o'clock.
AJ joins us. Sammy's summer camp stories ahead. We'll talk to Adam Jones when we come back on 97.3 The Fan. Somehow we are still 48 hours or more away from Game 1 of the World Series. Long break here, Sammy, between the end of the LCS and the start of the World Series.
Yeah.
It was supposed to not happen. They designed it that, okay, if they end early, we're going to start it on Tuesday. We'd be already heading to Game 2. But because the Dodger-Met series went one game longer to Game 6, we have to wait now until Friday.
Yeah, it seems, I mean, we can ask Adam about it. It seems excessive. It seems like a long way off.
Yeah,
I mean,
maybe
4 days all of a sudden.
I guess maybe if they had just said, if the NLCS goes 6, we can start on Tuesday. Because it ended on, did it end on Sunday?
Ended on Sunday.
So I guess that would have been too fast. That's the problem. It would have been a one-day turnaround.
And then you got one
for the Dodgers.
team that, has 2 more days or even more than that than the other team. It does give both teams a chance to reset their pitching. I get it.
And we did get the matchup officially announced. Garrett Cole against Jack Flaherty.
Yeah.
Going to go Game 1 for the Dodgers. We'll talk about it with Adam Jones. He's standing by right after a check of traffic here on 97.3 The Fan.
From the 97.3 The Fan Traffic Center, here's Kelly Danick.
Traffic is fueled by locally and veteran-owned Sedano Ford in La Mesa. Drive on over to Sedano Ford. Guys, we still have a couple of problems here. Cordell traffic cam shows 2-vehicle accident westbound King Freeway before the 5. It's over the right shoulder. Also collision on the 43rd Street on-ramp to northbound 805. And in the North County, getting reports of a collision west 78 past Jefferson. Got a car and pickup truck involved. They are in the center divide. Boo, San Diego, please have a listen to this bone-chilling deal. The 2024 Ford Escape ST could be yours for just $200 a month. Don't let this offer vanish before it's too late. Sedano Ford, local, veteran-owned, and terrifyingly good deals. For more details, visit sedanoford.com if you dare. I'm Kelly Danick with Ben & Wood, San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan.
All right, joining us, the 5-time All-Star Adam Jones. He's been at his home in Barcelona the last few times that we have spoken, but I am told that it is time for another edition of Where in the World is Adam Jones? AJ, we got Sammy Levitt here in for Woods this morning. Where are we finding you this morning or afternoon?
Pleasure. Afternoon, yes. I am in Copenhagen, Denmark right now, and last night, I'm telling you, I don't know how, but last night I had arguably the best tacos I've ever had. And I've had friends question me, friends questioning my gangster.
I mean, I trust you. You're a San Diego guy.
I don't know
so.
how. Exactly.
You know tacos.
I know all about fried shells. These tacos in Copenhagen, phenomenal.
I am stunned. I mean, if you want to follow AJ on Twitter, it's simply AJ10. You can get hot food takes like cardamom bums are average LOL. Yeah, I said it. Here's some advice. Just have a cinnamon roll like the rest of us, AJ. What are you doing with cardamom buns?
Well, I mean, you know me. Where I'm at, I'm a local guy.
All right.
Wherever I'm at, I'm drinking the local beer. I'm eating the local food. So, the cardamom buns are the ones that the people just crave over, and I call them cardamom bums. because they weren't. They didn't live up to it in my estimation. My wife loved them, but they didn't live up to in my estimation, to what people were talking about. And a lot of people said, "Yeah, go get yourself a cinnamon roll." And of course, you know, you can always find a cinnamon roll. But you know me, whenever I'm in a place, I'm gonna be a local.
He is. All right.
He just told me on the phone earlier. Go look at his Instagram story. He posted the tacos. They look good.
Good
Denmark.
tacos in Denmark, the land of
Amazing.
Hamlet, the
Amazing.
Prince of Denmark. All right, we got our matchup, and obviously the powers that be in Major League Baseball are very excited about Yankees Dodgers. And while Padres fans aren't too happy about it, I'm sure Red Sox and other fans who hate the Yankees don't love it. I think it really is a terrific World Series matchup. I wish the Padres were there, but this is going to be one that is going to be very compelling. I think, AJ.
I mean, this is, if you're talking about the premier matchups of what you want, I've seen a tweet talking about you getting in basketball, you're getting generally the top players going against each other, superstars going against each other. This is the first time in a while that you're getting really the top two players arguably in the game, 1 and 2, 1A, 1B, I believe, and you're getting them and their teams going against each other. I think, obviously, globally in growing this game, this is enormous. You're going to get an X amount of millions of viewership that are going to be from overseas, Japan, Korea, Taiwan, I believe are going to be televising the game. And you're going to get the entire United States watching the game in, too, because a lot of people say, I'm not going to watch the game, my team ain't in it. You crazy as all crap. You watching the game. You watching the series. And I think, I think baseball fans, especially the other two markets, want both teams to lose like I do. But one of them is going to have to be the victor, and it stinks because if the Dodgers win, we're going to have to hear about it. And if you guys have to hear about it, and I have to hear about it also. But if the Orioles win, I got to hear about, or the Yankees, I have to hear about it. So either way,
you're no win. Yeah, that's a good point.
This is the opposite of the Padres and Orioles World Series. I'm going to have to hear about it either way, but just for growing the game and globally, this is the perfect matchup, perfect timing, and I think baseball fans would love to see Game 7 and maybe Ohtani jog out of that bullpen.
Hey, Adam, how do you view the pitching in this series? Because obviously the Dodger bullpen has been great. They've relied on it heavily. It'll be Flaherty in Game 1. We'll see if he has a better start than what he did in his last start of the NLCS against the Mets. Do you think the Dodgers can keep kind of rolling with what they've done pitching-wise against this lineup, relying as heavily on their bullpen as they have? Because I'll tell you, I thought Game 6 of that NLCS, I actually thought a lot of those Dodger relievers were not particularly sharp, and they were sort of playing with fire against that Mets lineup, even though they won the game. Do you think what they've done bullpen-wise is sustainable in another 7-game series against the caliber of a lineup like the Yankees have?
Well, you finished it with the right. That's exactly what I was going to say. Is that the Yankees going to make you work?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter who you are. The Yankees make you work, and vice versa. The Dodgers are going to make the Yankees work. It's, to me, you got Cole, Yamamoto, Flaherty, Rondon. I mean, again, none of them are throwing complete games. You're not seeing a complete game ever in the postseason, I believe, not in our lifetime. Jeez, it's really hard for you guys to go 6-7.
Yeah.
I think the bullpens are going to be the number one most important thing this entire series. Both lineups are stacked deep. Both lineups are veteran lineups that work the count, and they just make you work. So I think whoever bullpen blinks first is going to be. It's going to be Evan Phillips. It's going to be Blake Trinan. It's going to be Weaver. It's going to be Hill. And I think it's going to be late game matchups of who can get out consecutively Soto, Judge, Stanton right now, and who can get out Ohtani, Betts, and Freeman. And Teoscar, he had a slow NLCS, but again, he's facing a very, very familiar team.
Big league wins. Oh.
You know he wants to go out there.
Sorry, I jumped in there. Interrupter Ben. Big League Wednesday. We got Adam Jones with us here, and there's a topic I wanted to bring up earlier. We haven't actually played the audio, but Aaron Judge was talking about Shohei yesterday. What a great player he is. All the different things that he can do. Yada, yada, on and on. And then he ended by saying he's a great ambassador for baseball. And I just stopped down for a second. And I wanted to get your take on what being an ambassador for the game is. I personally, Adam, think it's very hard to be a player, a current player, and an ambassador. I think of you, like in particular, as being a great ambassador for the game of baseball. But is Shohei Ohtani, he's a great player. He's obviously a worldwide brand. He brings a lot of eyeballs to the game. But do you consider him an ambassador to baseball?
I do, because again, with all the branding, he's a great guy, and I think LA opened that up more for him because the market is going to open up your personality, like his dog catching the first or throwing the first pitch or whatever he did. I mean, like things like that would never happen in Anaheim because the market isn't going to push that. The LA market don't care about you. It's going to force you to open up. It's going to force you to show your personality, and I think that's what was the last thing missing. Is no one knew Shohei. And again, we still don't know him, but I think the game knows him better than they did in this year than they did over the 6 years down in Anaheim. And you see him with the emotions. He never showed that in Anaheim. Again, they weren't winning, so it's kind of hard to show positive emotions when you're getting whooped often. But I just think that he is, obviously being global, being Japanese, but he also does speak the language. You see his interactions with his teammates. I think he's, one of the best, if not the best. Obviously, I think Aaron Judge is phenomenal because he's got MVPs going against each other, and just how Judge is. He always seems to say the right things. I don't know if he sat down with Derek Jeter and did that the Yankee way, but he always says the right things, no matter if he's struggling, no matter what. It's always about the team and organization. And that's how Ohtani seems to be.
I guess, my point was, and you said it, we still don't really know him. There's so much that is a mystery about Shohei, and I don't that's fine. His job is to be a baseball player, but I feel like if you want to be an ambassador, you really have to open yourself up, do a lot of media and interviews. Like Joey Votto was a guy who I would say was an ambassador of baseball while he was a player, in terms of the openness.
To the Votto thing. Votto's his last 2 years opened up.
Okay,
Before that, Votto
late in his career.
He said 5 words.
It's hard to do.
I would go Mookie Betts.
Yeah.
Because Mookie has a podcast. Mookie plays against you the night before and then makes you wake up early and come to his podcast. Like, Mookie's a gangster with that.
I agree with that.
Hey, I think Mookie is to me, has always been one of the best because his personality has always been so welcoming and warm. So, I mean, there's a lot of – I'll put Mookie higher than Shohei.
I would agree with that.
Ambassadorship of the game.
But then there's like a Mike Trout, who I would say is not an ambassador of the game at all. He's a great player. And there's nothing wrong with that, AJ. It's just different for different people.
I think it's a personality. Trout, if you know Trout loves baseball and sitting in his blind and golf. And you sit in that blind trying to hunt something. Those are his 3 passions. He loves his family, but those are his 3 passions. And I got to play with guys, Nick Markakis and J.J. Hardy, who loved the game of baseball. But once the game was over, they never spoke of it. I'd go to Cake's house, and he would never talk about baseball, ever. Never mentioned it, never mentioned a thing about it. It's hunting. I'm out on my dirt bikes, fishing. And it's like sometimes it's really cool when you see someone able to just be free and break away from it like Trout does. But I've told him many times, and many of our circle has told him, like, bro, you are the best player in the game. Do more, and I know you don't want to, but do more because of your status in the game. And obviously you don't want to, but sometimes when you are when you are a legend, that just comes with the territory that you have to speak. You have to be more of a leader. And that just, unfortunately, that comes with the role of being so awesome.
Adam, I wanted to ask you really a 2-part question about Juan Soto, because obviously the at-bat in Game 5 of that championship series was unbelievable. I mean, I'm sitting there watching it live, and you could see Juan literally like licking his lips at Hunter Gaddis and obviously hit the home run, one of the real great moments of this postseason. If you were a GM and you're looking at Juan Soto and what he might command on the open market if you're sitting in New York or wherever, whatever teams will be interested in him, how do you view, number one, I guess, Soto, the player, the idea that he could make, $500+ million, or is that worth it to you for one player, for a guy like Soto at his age, for however many years? Would you rather spread that money around? How do you view, I guess, number one, Soto the player, what we saw in that at bat, and also kind of the big picture with him moving forward into the winter?
Well, I mean, since Soto came into the league, he's been one of the best players, especially on the offensive side. He is a tremendous offensive player, tremendous. And what helped him this year, I believe, was being in the stadium, being in that
Yeah.
short porch right field. That's an easy right field to play. You got 81 games there. Then you go to Boston, which is a tough right field to play. You're only there for 7-8 games. You go to Baltimore, easy right field to play. Toronto, easy right field, and so is Tampa. I think being in that division helped his defense. I mean, he wasn't again. He's a Go-Go finalist, but he's one of the best right fielders defensively in baseball. We can argue that all we want. But is he one of the best offensive guys? Well, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And New York is the place. Now, is it the Mets or is it the Yankees? But I think the world seeing him on the biggest stage. You're in New York. You're on the biggest stage, and he's held accountable. I think that's what he really needed. San Diego is a great, great, great place to play. The stadium is great. Everything is great. The market will not hold you accountable in the grand scheme of baseball. When Robinson Cano went to Seattle, he could go 4 for 4 with 3 home runs, and it was a blip note underneath. No one cared. You go to New York, Robinson Cano's 0 for 4 is we're going to talk about it and you're going to show his 4 at-bats. It's just the market holds you accountable, and I think that was the most important thing for him is that the New York market held him accountable and will hold him accountable for your play on a bigger scale than San Diego would, and we all know that. So I think him going there was special and important. Now, the length, he's 25 years old. You're talking at least 10 years. And, 50 million a year. I think obviously that's the market and what it's going to command. I think New York is the best place for him in that market. Again, there's other markets that can afford it, but I think New York is the best for him, and the city will make him, I think, keep him on this path to being a Hall of Fame aimed player. Because New York City they don't play. They don't care. They ripped into Lindor. They ripped into Judge early in the year. They tore Jeter apart many times. So they don't care. They want a winner, and I think that city will hold him accountable. And him judge for the next foreseeable future, that's pretty scary.
Media's fault again, as usual. Either we're too hard on players or we don't hold them accountable enough. There is no winning in this job, Adam, at all. But I do appreciate the fact that you are in the land of tacos, Copenhagen, Denmark.
When in doubt, blame the media.
Quickly, you got 10 seconds. What's your prediction? Who wins the series?
Both lose, but I go with the Yankees in 7.
Yankees in 7.
Right.
Adam
I'll
on
take
record. All right, we will see you again soon. Thank you very much, Adam.
All right.
Adam Jones on a Big League Wednesday picks the New York Yankees in 7 games. I saw like 2/3 of the athletic staff pick the Yankees. I think they're nuts. I think the Dodgers, to me, I'd be shocked if they don't win this series. I'm not rooting for them.
I'm shocked that you'd be shocked.
I think the Dodgers are just almost
I think the
top
Yankees
to
are gonna
bottom
win
better
the
than the
series.
Yankees.
Really?
Yes. Well, we got stuff to talk about, including Sammy's camp
Let's
stories.
talk about the accountable thing too.
When we come back with more Better Woods on the Fan. Halfway home on a Wednesday, which means it's the very middle point of our Ben and Woods week here on 97.3 The Fan. Welcome back. Thanks again to Adam Jones, who just, I think, maybe knocked around the beehive a little bit in the last segment, because we have Sam Levitt in for Woodsy today, who just gave us an update. They are I think, awaiting the rope drop at Disneyland, and
wow,
he
early.
was showing all the pictures of everybody waiting to go in and
can I
run
ask
to
a
the
question?
rides. Yeah,
and I am not knocking any type of parenting anything. Doesn't Bo have school today?
No,
break.
it's fall break.
Oh, it's fall break.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. They're
They're
trying to fill the time this
zoo,
week.
School. I was
Yeah.
like, zoos. I was like, doesn't he have to go to school?
We've had the discussion.
Not that you can't take a day off.
What is fall break? Why does
I
it
think
exist
some districts
now?
have it,
But,
some
yeah.
don't.
All good with me.
They start so early now, like in mid-August, that they add a week of vacation in the middle of fall to break
Got
it
it.
up between like August and Christmas holiday break.
Well, that makes sense.
In December.
Yeah.
So they have this week off, and that means that Woods and Hannah have the kids, and made a lot of sense for him to take off a day, because Wednesday's usually the least crowded day at Disneyland, because, your tourists who come in for your 4-day weekends, whether it's Thursday to Sunday or Saturday to Tuesday, unless you're there for the whole week, you're going to get less people from out of town usually on a
Right.
Wednesday, probably in the fall, than you're going to get any other day. So they're strategically picking their Disney day. I think Woods is going, but he sees all these people here. There's no non-crowded days at Disneyland
Right.
anymore. It's pretty much busy every single day.
Oh, good for them. That's
And
going
then
to
you
be
got the
fun.
Halloween decorations, which will become the Christmas decorations. Like, it is a busy time for sure.
Halloween. I know we got a lot on the docket here, but we got to talk about Halloween while I'm here, because I'm not a big Halloween person at all. I actually hate dressing up. I've got two.
Were you ever a Halloween guy?
Not really.
I
Not
wasn't
even as
either
a kid.
growing up.
I've got two parties on Saturday. One of which is a costume required, and I hate costumes.
You have to come up
I
with
hate
the
having to
idea,
think
then you
about
have
it.
to
I hate it.
execute it.
There's no part of me that enjoys it at all.
I hate putting on makeup for the costumes that
It's
require
so much effort.
Yeah,
I think it's
it's
all
tough.
silly.
So
I'm totally.
I
out.
usually punt, but last year Paulie and Woods came up with the costume for me on the show, and I was Pat McAfee. Paulie teased it earlier. I don't know if you're ready to
I don't remember
reveal
this at all. You were Pat McAfee
for Halloween.
Ben
last
McAfee.
year.
He had like the sleeveless cutoffs and a chain.
That's funny. I don't. Maybe I wasn't listening during
Woods
this time.
was a
I don't know.
tiger, so he was Tiger Woods.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
And then I was a cocaine bear. I had a bear costume with a bunch of
I
white powder.
I
on
won't
my-
give it away. Paulie has a genius idea that I'm looking
I don't-
forward to.
I
Are you
don't
not
know
going
if-
to do it?
I don't know.
Oh,
Logistically, I don't know that it works out very
All right,
well,
well.
but we can talk about it. I do have an idea, but I just don't know that it works.
Yeah, I would love to hear any ideas for me. If anybody out there, you want to, chime in, tweet, whatever. Because it's something simple that doesn't take a lot of effort, but it's good and won't feel like I'm a total moron. Because last year what did I do? I tried to be from the TV show Below Deck. I tried to be like a captain and literally ordered from Amazon a sailor's hat. It was silly.
Yeah.
I felt like an idiot the whole time I was wearing it. I was like,
Baywatch
nobody knows what I'm
lifeguard. Just
doing.
get a red bathing suit, and you can be a Baywatch lifeguard.
Yeah, or
So-
lifeguards. That's not a bad one. A lifeguard,
Lifeguard,
but again,
whistle, and
but
you
like
can
I'm
do-
going to show up to an adult Halloween party as a lifeguard.
Could be worse.
So lame.
Now, Paulie, you teased it. Do you want to save it for when Woods is here tomorrow for what you got for me?
I'm saving it until next Thursday.
Oh, this
Woods
is
knows
a
what
long
it is.
tease.
I went to
I'm
Spirit
the only
Halloween.
one who doesn't know.
I went to Spirit Halloween yesterday and was looking around for a few things, and I saw, because I didn't know if you had decided on a costume or not. You kind of alluded to us that whatever we decide for you is going to be fine enough. So I sent some pictures to Woods from Spirit Halloween. I said, "This is it," and he goes, "Oh my God." Absolutely 100,000%. He goes, "Whatever it costs, get it right now." And that's all I will say.
All right. Well, that's the long tease for Halloween, which is next Thursday.
I believe so.
All right.
Yes.
So,
Yes, next Thursday.
So yeah, Sammy. Well, I also want to, because you mentioned the fact that that you used to go to summer camp growing up. Now that seems to me like a very like sleepaway summer
Total
camp.
sleepaway 8 weeks.
Paulie, did you ever go to
8
sleepaway?
weeks?
Yes.
8 weeks.
Yes. Well, that's a big East Coast thing. The
Well,
full
that is
sleepaway
such a
camp.
crap. I mean, I would think 2 weeks. is,
Honesdale, Pennsylvania.
So you were just gone.
Yes.
Did you ever?
Totally
did you
gone.
see your
My
family at
well,
all during the summer?
Visiting day.
Visiting day.
Yeah,
Sounds
well,
like
you have
a
one.
prison. Which essentially is what it is. It's like prison.
You
for
do have one
kids
visiting
during the
day.
summer.
You had
Oh
one
my
visiting
God.
day. Every parent came up on visiting day, and they opened up the camp, and you wandered around with your parents, and then that was like from like 8 to 4, and then they were gone, and you were back, and some kids cried.
Don't tell Woods about this. He will so fast
I
send
loved
Taylor
camp.
and Bo off to 8 weeks sleepaway summer
The
camp.
concept of a full summer sleepaway camp is a very East Coast
So-
thing. Yes.
You school gets out
Late June, yes.
late
Yeah.
June,
And
and
you-
then you're gone.
So you have
Your
like
whole
how many
summer
days
is a
do you have at home before you're
So
shipped off?
camp would start very quickly after school ended. Like if it was, let's say, well, by the time you're in high school, then you have testing and stuff. So let's say you were done, and this is East Coast, so it's a lot different than here. So sometimes you wouldn't be done with like whatever testing, AP tests, whatever it might be, until I don't know June 20th, like that late sometimes.
Sure. That's when I
Somewhere
got
in the
out.
June 20s. Typically, camp would start, and it would go until like mid-August. It'd be like a solid 7-8 weeks,
And then you just come back and get
school
ready for
always
school again.
started after Labor Day, so you'd have
You have
few
a week
weeks.
or two when
and
you
that's
get
when
back.
we would go
That's
on.
it.
We'd go
Family
up to
vacation.
Vermont, for like a.
So how far
week,
away
whatever.
was this camp from your home? Like Adirondack
camp-
Mountains, or what are we
my
talking
camp
here?
was Honesdale, Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania. So a
it was
whole
like
other
4
state.
hours,
All right,
four
so
and a half. There are a lot of camps in the Catskills. There are some that are a little bit higher up or deeper in Pennsylvania. There's a county called Wayne County in Pennsylvania where there are a lot of camps.
What did
And
you
we used to
do?
play the
what
other
did you
camps.
Was it like
for
parent
8
trap? Were you
weeks?
fencing?
You did everything. You played sports. You did woodworking. You did
Woodworking.
If they had a zip line, you had all kinds of stuff. You had gymnastics. You had every activity you could imagine.
Honestly, if I sent my kid, well, my kids would never go. They would just refuse if I tried.
See, but it was real. We loved
Like
it.
everybody did it. All your
Oh,
friends.
yeah.
Did you
You
go
look
with
forward
Did you
to
go
it.
to camp with friends, or did you have friends that you made there?
Not really with friends. I had friends that I made there, and I mean, it's
Camp friends.
you kind of grow up. Not everybody in the same area. It's a lot in New York, New Jersey,
Any
Connecticut.
camp romances?
Did you ever
Not
sneak-
for me. I was
Oh,
not.
okay.
You ever
I
sneak
was
out?
kind of lame.
Try to find the girls.
See,
side
I
of the
was
camp?
no, because I was here's full transparency. I was kind of like in the cool bunk of in my
Whatever bunk
age.
Sammy was in is
no,
the
no,
cool bunk,
It was
right?
not. We had usually had like 3 bunks of our grade, our age. I was always in the cool bunk, but I was kind of the loser of the cool bunk. So I was kind of the get made fun of a lot. But I was in the cool bunk, so that carried a lot of weight.
Do you have any
That
pictures
was
of you at
better
summer
than being
camp?
in the not cool bunk.
I'm gonna need pictures if you have them.
Yeah, I have.
That's always the dilemma. Do you want to be the coolest member
Here, I
of
have
your
a photo.
fan of a not cool group, or the least cool member of a cool group? I was always
That's a
kind
great
of the
question.
least cool member of a not cool group, which is the worst of
The
both
worst of
worlds,
both
actually. So
I was looking at a photo of my brother and I at camp recently. Oh, here it is. Look at that. See that?
yeah,
I'm showing the stream.
there's
That's
Sammy at
us.
camp.
Yeah.
If I sent my kids away for 8 weeks, though, I would feel guilty as a parent. Like I am just farming them off. I am abdicating my responsibilities as a summer parent to some camp counselor somewhere 4 hours away.
Yeah.
And then what did your parents do? Just live the high life while you were all gone?
I guess. Yeah. Well, you make a good point. Like as you get older, I think you realize that for whatever they're paying for 7-8 week camp, they're getting literally like 2 months away from taking care
worth
of their kids.
It's
Yes.
worth gold. I
Yes.
mean,
and you don't think
2
about that
months
as a kid.
away from your
Yes.
kids. 2 months.
Yes.
Every year. What age? Like
How many? How many
long-
years did you
I
do
went
this?
from, I think I was going into 5th grade, and the last year I did it was after my first year of high school, and then I stopped.
4
14,
years?
15, yeah. Yeah, 5 years. Some kids
4 or
go,
5 years?
there's some little kids. Like, there were even, 2 years before I went that you could go, I think.
Wow.
Yeah, there are some pretty small kids, and for those kids,
Wow.
that first summer away, there's
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 a lot of
crying.
tears.
Oh
and,
yeah,
I miss my parents.
Yeah.
Maybe it was just a West Coast thing. I
Very
we
much
did
an
not.
East
I didn't know
Coast.
anybody that went to
when I went-
2-month summer
when
camp.
even all the people I know in the Midwest going to college, like it's a very
We had,
East
like,
Coast.
Camp
day
was like
camps.
junior lifeguards, and I would go for 5 hours.
Yeah.
and do that for
We had
a week or two, and that
basketball
was
Somebody-
camp, baseball
uh,
camp.
But I
The,
didn't sleep.
Somebody
anywhere.
asked a good question in the chat. This is a good one too. Was there any kind of communication that you can have with the parents or the parents with the kid? We did have, you'd have like every couple of weeks a phone call, and this was a while ago. So, well, not that long ago, but still, I don't know, what is it, like 20 years ago at this
20,
point.
yeah.
So you would actually go into a phone room where they would have, landline phones. There'd be somebody in there that like their job was to work the phone room. You'd have a time. They'd like take you there. You'd call your parent. It'd be like a 10-minute limit. Then they would say, all right, the time's up. And you'd be like, all right, Mom, gotta go.
Gotta go.
I'm sure they do it on cell phones now.
How was
or
the
whatever.
food?
It was good. You had like a dining hall. Yeah, it was fine.
good, not bad. Like
Yeah, it was-
camp,
I remember
camp
it being
food was
fine.
decent.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was pretty basic because
did-
they need a lot of it.
Up in Washington, it was like part of the school curriculum that every October, when you got to 6th grade, we got to go away to camp.
Yeah,
for
6th
a
grade
week.
camp. We do that here too.
Do they? Okay.
Yeah.
But
I hated it.
it was Monday
Hated
through
it.
Friday, 1 week. That was it.
I will say this, and I think it's still that now. This was again a little bit of a different time, but I would say now one of the big benefits of going to camp would be that your kids don't use. I would imagine there are no phones, no iPads, no nothing. It was like that when I was there. Now
Right.
it wasn't as
No Game
advanced. There
Boys.
wasn't an iPhone yet,
Right.
but I would imagine that you get away from all that, which is kind of a nice thing in today's day and age, I would think.
So you were just like disconnected from the world.
Yeah, you could have
for
a
2 months.
Walkman. I had a Walkman with CDs.
Now, to be fair, Paulie, you and Woods go to.
It was early iPods.
you go
too,
to very
yes.
expensive sleepaway baseball camp every January now.
I don't know what you're talking about. It's just work. I just go where work sends me. Yes, we do go to fantasy camp, but it's a little bit different.
Not really. It's just.
I mean, we
you
don't
just
sleep in
enjoy it.
cabins. We're not
That's
like-
true. You don't have to sleep in
We're
a
not
cabin.
woodworking. I get to use my phone. It's
I don't know. There's the music sessions and there's storytelling.
Adam said
there were
that's
story time sessions at camp. I went last year for the first time. It was very much camp. Other than woodworking, you pretty much are at camp.
Really? How
Paulie.
many strip clubs did you go to at
That's
summer
true.
camp?
I don't know, Sammy, you tell us.
I would love. I would love to go to fantasy camp.
Come on, join us.
It'd be fun.
Come on out.
There's usually plenty of room in the Airbnb.
Hell yeah.
Wonder
We'd love
if
to
I
have
could
Sammy
work
out there.
that in.
Come on, yeah, join us.
Get a spot.
You can hang out with me during the day while they're doing their camp activities, and I have free time. Is what I get to have during the
Now,
day.
Adam said what I described was a disc man, not a. What's the difference between a Walkman and a disc man?
A Discman has a CD in it. A Walkman
so
has
it's
a
a
cassette in it.
So I was okay. I had a disc man, not a
children.
Walkman. Okay.
Children don't
I had
even
a
understand.
Discman.
I saw,
But I remember. It's funny. I remember when the iPod started because I remember one of the counselors, like one of the summers, brought an iPod and we started playing stuff. So you could have iPods at some point. I remember that.
I did see a funny just on that same subject, a tweet, and I forget which musical artist tweeted it. It was, why are Gen Xers so mad? It's that they had to exchange their vinyl for their cassettes for their CDs for their MP3s, and then now they have to pay for streaming service for their music. They've had to exchange their music formats like 7 times during their lifetime.
I have another tweet here. This is totally unrelated, but I guess we're doing this in this segment. Somebody tweeted, and I so agree with this. Booking flights on a phone is crazy. That is a laptop activity. And then the quote tweet is, my most millennial trait is big purchases must happen in big laptop screen, and I could not agree more.
I also will
could
not
not
book a
agree
flight
more.
on the phone. It has to happen
If there are
on
big things to do, I have to
a
be on my
desktop or a
laptop.
laptop.
I totally agree. That's the most accurate thing I've heard.
I
all
don't
day.
trust having to click because the format is sometimes
I'm
wrong.
totally
it doesn't work.
yes, yes.
All right. Well, we just learned a lot about camp. I thought maybe 2 weeks they sent them
No.
away. 8-week camp
That
every
blew my
summer
mind.
is mind
But
blowing.
there was archery. There was
Katniss Everdeen over here.
I'm gonna look up what else. There was some pretty interesting stuff.
8 weeks of archery sounds.
Oh, there was we had a game called
nightmarish.
Gaga where we just like hit a ball around like a little pit.
You were in prison. You were essentially in prison.
There was there was a lot.
All right, we had a couple of issues when Adam was on. We talked about. I said I think this is a Dodgers series, and you pushed back, and you think the Yankees.
I'm shocked that you think it's going to be a
I'm not
cakewalk.
shocked.
Really? I'm
It's
shocked
Ben.
by that. Oh, okay.
It's Ben.
All right, we'll talk about it when we come back. It's Ben and Woods traffic next on 97.3 The Fan.
Hamul Casino. Fun above all else.
Getting used to being accused of Dodger loving by my producer over here, Paul Reindl, which is fine. I'm trying to be objective when I look at the teams in this series, and I simply think the Dodgers are the superior of the two teams. Deeper lineup, better bullpen.
Like, Woods would come on and be like, I mean, what? They're the best team ever. They're the best team ever assembled. They got to beat the Yankees in 4. Sarcastically. I don't get that sarcastic sense from you.
Well, I think there's a kernel of truth. Not the best team ever. They have their pitching shortcomings this year in starters, but it's been completely irrelevant in the postseason, essentially. They've gotten more than enough starting pitching with the bullpen that they have that it's very hard to score against them, and it's very hard to keep them to less than 7 or 8 runs in a game.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you ever lose with that combination?
That's the thing. Like, if they hit the way they hit in that Mets series, I think it'll be very, very difficult.
I don't think the Yankees have any better pitching than they've already faced in the Padres or the Mets. Yeah. I mean, Rodon's been good. Cole can be very good, but I don't see those guys as pitchers that the Dodgers feel like, we better chip away 1 or 2 runs. No, they will go out and try to score 6 or 7 or 8 against those guys, just like they do everybody else.
I just think there is a version with their starting pitching shortcomings of it could go really wrong for a few straight games.
Yeah, I thought that was going to happen.
Really tax your bullpen. But I'll tell you what, I'm telling you, that Game 6 against the Mets, they got lucky the Mets didn't cash in a lot of those big spots with runners on base, because a lot of those guys came out of the bullpen and were not super sharp.
The Mets had some opportunities they did not cash in on.
But I thought it showed, like, if it goes a little bit of a different way, that bullpen game could be a problem.
However, Dave Roberts, has been managing with an eye to the next round, the next
game. Yes,
there's no more next. He can really unleash whatever he wants these last few games. There's nothing to save it for.
Could be a blessing, could be a curse.
That's true.
We have seen Dave Roberts try to think a little too far outside of the box over the years in the playoffs, and it doesn't work out. I was waiting for that to happen in that entire NLDS. It never did. He managed his ass off. I'm giving him credit there.
Had the Mets come back and won that series, he would have got roasted for basically giving up Game 5.
I really thought that Walker Buehler was going to be a problem for the Dodgers in the rotation.
Yeah, he was very good.
Against the Padres, he wasn't. Now, he gave up the 6 runs, and it could have been less, but he wasn't getting any swing and miss. He wasn't getting any strikeouts. Right. And I thought, okay, this is the guy who's going to be the downfall. And then he was fantastic.
He was great. Yeah.
He was classic Walker Buehler. If that Walker Buehler shows up, series is already over. If he pitches like that, they'll get enough from Flaherty and Yamamoto to get to their bullpen in those games, get what they got from Buehler. They're going to be and then they do probably a bullpen game for their 4th game. That's a really tough combination, I think, to beat.
So you think not only will the Dodgers win the series, you think they'll win it quickly?
4 or 5
games.
That's
That's very interesting. See, I'll probably end up picking the Yankees. I don't want to pick either team, but end up picking the Yankees. I'll probably pick it in a long series, though.
I think
it'll be a good series.
I don't think
Walker Buehler, Ferris Bueller, doesn't matter. Yankees in 4.
I mean, the best chance for the Yankees. I don't think the Dodgers will let Judge and Soto just beat them. They will be careful. They need Stanton to keep doing what he's doing. I mean, I'm still amazed that he's able to just turn on this postseason switch the way he has done it. If he keeps going, and they keep getting, contributions from Glaber and some of the other guys in the lineup, then they can make it a series. But I think you're asking a lot of the Yankees to really even give the Dodgers much of a series here. That's the way I see it.
All right.
Dodgers in 5.
It's good Woods isn't here because he wouldn't like this.
I mean, you want me to be not honest in what I think? I think the Dodgers win in 5 games.
All right.
I hate you.
No, I mean, I could be wrong. Then you get the double benefit of both the Dodgers losing and Ben is incredibly wrong in his analysis. It's a win-win situation.
I don't know
for
what
all
you're
of you.
doing. I don't know if this is a deep troll and we're just
Well,
not
I
catching
think
on
both.
to it.
No. Both options, just from a pure fan perspective. I don't like it either. I don't want to root for the Yankees.
I'm not rooting for that. I'm rooting to be wrong.
Right.
I am
I get you're
absolutely
not rooting.
100%
You gotta
rooting
pick a
to
team.
be wrong.
It's the World Series
in this series. But I just the way that I see it, the Dodgers are tough at bats.
That I agree with. Look, their quality of at bats, especially in that Mets series, was really something, and it showed you if you don't have great pitching, they're just going to score 8-9 runs a game. Yeah, it's very hard.
Soto
to beat.
gives you those at bats. Judge has been vulnerable during the playoffs. Stanton's been incredible, but I think you can work around him with good pitching. I don't see the same quality of at bats from the Yankees that I see from the Dodgers.
I agree with that. Yeah.
So
We'll see. Did you see that the Dodgers? Again, this is like more Dodger loving here. But did you see that they speaking of the quality of at bats, that they set a record for runs in a 7-game
six game series, 46
when I saw that, I was
runs.
like, wow, yeah.
46 runs.
Yeah, the at bats were impressive. Yeah.
I mean, the Padres, when you go back to what they did, they actually held the Dodgers in
Very
check
much so, yeah.
for the most part. They
Yu
had the
Darvish.
8-0 game, but other than that,
Right.
they did a better job than most against the Dodgers lineup.
Right.
I don't think the Yankees don't have a better bullpen than the Padres did. So, it's going to be tough for the Yankees to keep the Dodgers under 5 to 6 runs a game. And if you score that much, you should win a series fairly easily. And that's what the Dodgers are doing right now. The Mets were kind of lucky, I thought, to get the 2 that they got.
Yeah, I'm with you. Well, it felt like, and I was like, I to be honest with you, during that Mets series, I didn't fully understand, and I guess it worked out for them. I didn't fully understand the strategy of basically, to me, it felt like they punted game 2 and they punted game 5. Throwing Landon Knack in the second inning, I was like, what? And then game 5, letting Flaherty, stay out there and get beat up. But to their credit, I think they looked at it as we have to win 4.
All right. Well,
however we have to do
when
it.
we come back, we will be joined by the manager of the Yankees, brother, next on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. That we're going to have the Yankees manager's brother on next, but Bret is much more than just the brother of Aaron Boone. He has been joining us all season long, talking baseball. We always appreciate his visits, and Bret Boone is standing by. Going to join me and Sammy right after this check of traffic on 97.3 The Fan.
From the 97.3 The Fan Traffic Center, here's Kelly Danick.
This traffic report is fueled by locally and veteran-owned Sedano Ford in La Mesa. Still a few problems here, guys. One of them is a collision on westbound 54 at Highland Avenue. It's over to the left shoulder. Also going to find on westbound 8 just before Fletcher Parkway, collision involving car and a pickup truck. That's over the right shoulder. And South 5 Coastline near Cannon. Accident being cleared out of the fast lane. San Diego, prepare for a spine-tingling adventure with Sedano Ford in La Mesa. The 2024 Ford Bronco Sport Big Bend is only $296 a month. Hurry to Sedano Ford, your local veteran-owned dealership, before this deal disappears. For more details about this offer, hunt SedanoFord.com. Boo-yah. I'm Kelly Danick with Ben & Woods, San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan.
Oh, that must mean that we are joined right now by Odyssey MLB insider Bret Boone. Insider calls are presented by Grainger with supplies and solutions for every industry. Grainger has the right product for you. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Bret, host of the Bret Boone podcast, featuring the most notable names in MLB, around sports. And in this week, talking to one of Cool and the gang, I think I saw. Bret, good morning to you.
What's going on, Ben? I'll tell you what, Ben. You're making me feel bad this morning. I've been carrying this family for a long time.
I know you have.
And all of a sudden, my status has dropped to Aaron's brother.
That's why I said I was kind of joking, but this week it feels a little bit that way. Now
it's too easy. It's on a tee for you.
Now I saw you were honored last night. The Boone family was honored at the Ducks game last night, and your brother didn't even bother to show up. I mean, what has he got? Somewhere else to be?
He's too big time.
How was the game?
It was pretty cool. I haven't been to a hockey game in a while, but we got Pops out there. We got my hockey jersey. That was what I was most excited about. I got a new hockey jersey.
They gave you a little custom Ducks jersey that said Boone on the back?
And it's interesting because, that's now their version of a first pitch. Is you go up and you hit this button, and it's kind of WWE style. And, I was awkward trying to get the fans riled up, but that goes with the territory. You get a little older. You're not that cool young vibe, where the 20-year-olds really they give it a let's go, and they have the right fist pump. And I was just kind of, I had Dad. I said, Dad, make sure you wait till my hand gets there. We'll put our hands on it together. But no, in the end, it was he had a good time. It was a fun deal.
And they won, so they'll probably invite you back. Ducks beat the Sharks 3-1. Did you stay for the whole game?
I did not.
I did not.
I guess we exited after period 2, and it was 1-0 when we left.
Yeah, they held on for the win. All right. Well, the matchup that I know. Major League Baseball wants is set. Dodgers versus the Yankees. And Sammy and I were just kind of getting into it. I think the Dodgers have the deeper lineup, the better bullpen, and they've overcome their starting pitching injuries so far. I don't see any reason why that won't continue. Sammy, more on the side of the Yankees. How do you kind of break down the series? First look.
Well, I think you're right. I think offensively there's plenty of star power on both sides. But I think if you're going to go overall length of the lineup, I think I give the edge to the Dodgers. They just seem that, they're secondary players, and our Muncy, who just got on base 12 at-bats in a row, he's always had that 30-plus home run power. Teoscar Hernandez had a great year. It didn't have a very good series this past series. But the depth, the Will Smiths, what Edmonds did in the final game. Kiki Hernandez came up big a couple times, and we're not even getting into their top guys, which is Ohtani, Betts, and Freeman's been hobbled, but with this 5 days off for him. So, yeah, length of lineup, I give it to the Dodgers. The Dodgers bullpen's been unbelievable in the postseason. Everybody's talking about the Padres bullpen, which I thought was the tops definitely in the National League. Cleveland's the top in the American League, and Cleveland's definitely faltered in that series against the Yankees. I just don't know how long can you do this bullpen thing. It's never been done before, especially to win a World Series. Never been bullpen oriented. I saw Flaherty's last outing. It's about as bad as you can pitch. I'm interested to see how he bounces back. Yamamoto, for me, with the injury being out 2 months, he's kind of a flip a coin. Is he going to be good? Is he not going to be good? Walker Buehler's definitely not the Walker Buehler of a couple of years ago before the Tommy John. Yes, his last outing was pretty good. But everybody's talking about Buehler. Oh, he's back to Buehler. He pitched 4 innings.
Yeah.
He pitched 4 innings. What happened to the marquee matchups in recent times, the Verlanders versus the Scherzers? And in my day, the Randy Johnson, the Kurt Schilling, versus, the Roger Clement. I mean, that's what I think this postseason is lacking. It's been very exciting. I've loved it. I've loved watching the games. There's twists and turns, things that happen that I never thought were going to happen. So I think it's been exciting, but I think we're getting away from that marquee matchup. I look in this postseason, really the only marquee go-to guy is a Garrett Cole, and Garrett Cole's been hit or miss too. So that's going to be interesting how that goes. I think the key for the Yankees is Cole's got to be Garrett Cole. When Garrett Cole pitches, you've got to win. And if you don't, I think that's when they get into a little bit of trouble there. Rodon's been good. Clark Schmidt's, formidable. I think Heel, who knows? He can either be dominating or he can walk a lot of hitters. It's going to be a pretty darn good matchup. I think plenty of star power on both sides. Anytime you're in the postseason in October when it gets cold in the Bronx, it's just a different animal. Yeah. As great as Dodger Stadium is, it's more, it's light and bright. and a fun atmosphere, man, you go in as an opponent to the Bronx when it's cold and windy. I remember those days. My heart's been broken a couple times there. It's like kind of spooky, but it sets up. This is about as action packed and star packed as a World Series can go. And obviously, I have to show a little bias in this one, and I was really happy for Aaron to get in.
Hey,
you know,
Bret,
I think I think another theme is Aaron and Roberts. You know, these two managers. It was talked about going to the postseason. You know, there's whispers behind the scenes. If these guys don't get to, you know, there's always rumblings about, hey, are they going to move on if they don't get to the postseason? Well, it was cool to see both of them get to that World Series and kind of quiet the critics. You know, I was definitely happy for my brother. He's seems like he's on the hot seat all the time, and I just, you know, putting bias aside, I think he's done a great job with what he's had to work with in his tenure in New York. And see him get to the World Series, I know how excited it was. It was almost relief, like, all right, we're here. Still work to do, but I don't know. I think everything about this series is there's about as many storylines as you could imagine. So it's going to be fun to watch.
Hey, Bret, you mentioned the Dodger bullpen, and I'll tell you, I have that same concern you have as to can you win another series with the way they're doing it. Like, I thought Game 6 of the NLCS, a lot of those guys for the Dodgers came out of the bullpen. They weren't great. They weren't sharp, and I thought it sort of exposed that if you have a couple of links in that chain not be very good, or even a couple of starters in a row not be very good, you could run into a lot of trouble with the way they're doing it. Now they're scoring so many runs, it really hasn't mattered. I think, though, Bret, I wonder, just moving forward, how do you construct a team these days? Because in the regular season, you certainly need, you know, frontline starters, guys to make 30-plus starts. You can't use the bullpen the way teams are now using it in the postseason, but certainly there seems to be a formula with the way this game changes now in the postseason. You know, guys are going 4 or 5 innings, and that's it. You're relying heavily on your bullpen. If you were sitting as a GM, how would you construct a team that can win in the regular season, but then have a bullpen capable of doing what now bullpens are asked to do in the post?
Well, I think it definitely has changed. A lot of the equity now is put into the bullpen, whereas in my generation, we had some power bullpens, but there was 3 guys down there, usually 7th, 8th, and 9th. And a lot of the monies weren't put into the bullpen. I think that's been the biggest change. Still, for me, if I'm put in the general manager chair right now, I'm still going to build my team around starting pitching. I'm going to get the best starting pitching I can, because I think, we're in a different era where bullpens are more important today. Guys, it's the culture. Guys, young players are not asked to go more than 5 innings. That's what they're asked to do. Give us 5 innings, which I don't think is particularly good for the game. I love those matchups. I love the marquee matchups, and I hate the fact that we're getting away from that a little bit. I understand the strategy. I understand the data. But I think there's a danger to relying too heavily on your bullpen. And I think John Smoltz put it really well the other night when he said these bullpen games, they can sometimes go really good, but when they don't go really good, they usually go really bad. So there's a sense of, they're really not consistent, because you can rely on so many different guys to be good all in the same night in a row. So I think that's a big ask. Obviously, the Dodgers have done that. They've pieced it together to get to this stage, and they're in the World Series, so how can you really argue? But if you're giving me the GM position and ask me how I'm going to construct my team, I'm always going to go to starting pitching. I think the history of the game always proven out. Whoever has a starting pitching usually wins a World Series.
Talking to Bret Boone, Insider Calls are brought to you by Granger. And Bret, sad story last night, the passing of Fernando Valenzuela. And I think you were up in Orange County, kind of heading to high school when Fernando Mania hit in L.A. and then obviously USC, and you ended up facing him. 3 for 15 in your career against Fernando. Your thoughts on?
I couldn't get a hit off Fernando. Fernando at the end, when he was just, bats were flying out of the rack to get an at bat against him. I couldn't get a hit. I didn't face him in his heyday, but that's what I'm talking about in the history of the game. Fernando was an event, man. When Fernando pitched, everybody stopped. Fernando Valenzuela's pitching, and that was the days of the Steve Carltons. And when Lefty was on the hill, man, you stopped what you were doing. That's what baseball was about for me. When Randy Johnson pitched, when Pedro Martinez, Roger Clemens pitched, it was must see TV. You know, I think what Bumgarner did in the World Series for San Francisco, that was unbelievable. Things we've never seen before, and we're getting away from that. Guys aren't brought up to carry that workload. It used to be a foregone conclusion that the number one, the big horses in the rotation, when you got to that postseason, hey, it was all hands on deck, and it was, if we got to go on 3 days rest, we go on 3 days rest. It's just a different game now. The culture's different. The way they bring these kids up is different. It's, hey, go 5 innings. Just give us 5 innings. We'll give you $30 million. Well, it's really cool. But I love that old-fashioned man. Give me the ball. I'm going 9. I think with the Justin Verlanders and the Scherzers of the world being on their way out, and this is kind of their last hurrah, I think that's kind of gone, you know, because I still think taking the ball and planning on going 9, I think is the mindset that you have to have, is if you want to be that bona fide number one starter. Doesn't mean you go 9, but the mindset is you're going 9. But having a mindset going in that all I need to do is get through 5, I think that's dangerous territory for the game. And I truly don't really like it. I love the bullpen. I love the power bullpen. But you still got to have those marks.
The rookie numbers were insane. The eight complete games and 5 shutouts in his first 8 starts in 1981. All-Star, Cy Young, Rookie of the Year, and won the World Series. The last time the Yankees and Dodgers faced each other was that year in 1981 when Fernando didn't pitch great, but he got a win, I think, in the World Series as well. Now, when I was looking up those numbers, and you're right, you could not get a hit off Fernando. To be fair, I did notice, though, you owned Orel Hershiser. Just completely.
Yes,
absolutely 1,700 career OPS against Orel Hershiser. It's weird. I mean, 2 great Dodger pitchers. One, you couldn't touch it all. The other, you absolutely owned him.
Well, I'll tell you, and just not to give myself too much credit, it's not like I was getting Orel in 1989.
Yeah, true.
I was getting,
but you weren't getting Fernando in 1988 either, or 1884.
Right. Yeah, but that was what was weird about it. Fernando, at the end of his career, he was known for that screwball. Him and Tug McGraw were the big screwball guys. Late in his career, Fernando was throwing a cutter. So he didn't throw the screwball that much, and it really wasn't a screwball. It was more of a circle changeup at the end, when in the beginning he was really torquing that elbow and really throwing a legit screwball. At the end, it really wasn't. It was a changeup, cutter, and like I said, guys couldn't wait to get in the box against him except for me. And then it became mental. I'm going, I can't get a hit off him. And it was kind of the opposite with Orel. It's late in his career. I kind of got the best of him. But there's no rhyme or reason to that. I've had great pitchers that I hated facing that I seem like I always get a hit off of. And there's guys that I saw the ball like a beach ball, and I could not get a hit. So there's no rhyme or reason. That's what makes baseball so intriguing to me, and why it's the greatest game in the world, Ben.
So are you going to go up to L.A. at all and see your brother, or are you going to let him be for the series and just rehash it afterwards?
No, I get a couple of the boys are going up there. My mom's going to go up there for the first 2 games. I think if it gets into a clinch situation, I think it would be nice for my dad to be there if Aaron were to have a chance to win. So we're going to kind of play it by ear as we go. I'll be at home on the couch, comfortable, not battling any traffic and going to LA. It was tough enough when I would come in to play at Chavez Ravine as a player. I'd always stay at my house in Orange County where I grew up and went to high school. And man, it became a problem even then. It's like, gosh, I got to go to the ballpark like at noon just to get through that traffic in the 101 where it meets. And nobody was even in the parking lot then. That was a pain in the neck. I couldn't imagine World Series game 1 midday. Let's just head up and go to the game. So yeah, I'll be on my couch, but we'll be represented. Mom will be up there representing the Boone family for us, and hopefully, if things go well, one of the games me and Dad will pop up.
Well, by next Wednesday, I'll either be heading back to Los Angeles for Game 6 and 7, or it could be over by next Wednesday. So, Bret, appreciate it as always.
Thanks, Brett. Little plug for me.
Yeah.
Friday night, I think we're doing the game live. We're going to have some guests. We're going to have Ron Say and Piazza and Tino Martinez.
Wow.
I'm trying to. Hopefully, Charles Barkley will pop in the middle. So we're trying this. We're
like
going to have
streaming, or what are you doing?
I think the kids are calling it a watch party.
A watch party.
Oh.
Okay. Very cool.
So I got some
Very
good
nice.
guests. See how it goes. We're going to do it with Odyssey. I'll send the links
All
out.
right.
On mine.
Absolutely.
I
We will plug
I
that
don't
for you as soon as
PR
we see it.
Too much, but I was checking it out. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, appreciate you. Thanks, Bret.
Thank you, Brett.
guys.
Yeah, Odyssey Insider. Bret Boone, Insider Calls presented by Grainger with supplies and solutions for every industry. Grainger has the right product for you. Call clickgrainger.com or just stop by. Paulie mentioned, I think, yesterday, he talked about the traffic going up on Friday. The confluence of events, the World Series, Lakers game at Crypto,
Clippers,
USC football game at the Coliseum,
concert at the new arena,
at Forum and at the new arena, and a big high school event with the Black Eyed Peas performing at SoFi. All Friday night in Los Angeles. Stay away. Stay as far as you can, unless you're going to one of those events.
Black Eyed Peas at SoFi?
They're performing halftime at this high school game, like the biggest high school game in the
Fergie's
country.
Gonna be there?
Yeah, Fergie.
Better get there.
Sammy thinks she's Fergalicious. Yeah, for sure. I knew it. All right, we'll come back. Paulie's got some headlines with the Reindl Report, and I want some more Padres talk with Sammy in our final hour. All ahead next. Ben Woods on 97.3 The Fan. Final hour of Ben and Woods featuring Sam Levitt this morning on 97.3 The Fan. Sam was just asking, do you guys eat breakfast before you come in? And my answer is no.
Yeah.
But Paulie sometimes eats. Woods usually eats during the show, so either brings in a banana or just
I'll bring like a cup of yogurt that I can
yeah.
take down quickly before the show starts. Yeah. Woods eats pretty frequently between commercial breaks.
It's hard. It's very early. I mean, 5 a.m. is early to eat. I stopped at a local coffee shop, got a little pound cake type item, cup of coffee.
That's fine. When you're coming in once, absolutely treat yourself to something cool for being up this early in the morning.
It's early.
A pastry item. If you do it every single morning and you treat yourself to, a giant muffin, well, that's just not going to be good for your health anymore.
Right.
Well, it's just so early. Like,
it's very early.
I'd rather sleep for another 15, 20 minutes than get up 15, 20 minutes earlier and like make eggs and breakfast and all that. And it's just, I'll just deal with it.
This is not hard for me because I'm an early riser, but 5 is pretty early. Like I'm early riser like 6 hours. 6 a.m.
They always say, are you a morning person or kind of an evening person? And I finally realized I'm neither. I don't really like getting up in the morning, but I don't like staying up late at night either. So what does that leave you? Am I not even a person? Am I an afternoon person? No, I'm usually very tired in the afternoon as well. So, by the way, there's my sister with Fergie.
Hey, there we go. Somebody commented that Fergie's no longer in the Black Eyed Peas. Is that true?
I don't think she is. I don't know.
Oh, I didn't know.
So if you're going up to SoFi Stadium specifically to see them perform at halftime, no promises as to the construction of the group anymore.
We were talking right after we went to commercial. I mean, they did do a Super Bowl, so it's gone from Super Bowl to halftime
of a high school football game. I mean, how does Vanilla Ice go from being the biggest act on the planet to doing like 80s novelty shows or 90s novelty shows? That's fame for you.
But this high school thing is at SoFi, so it must be pretty big.
Yeah, it's a big thing.
Okay, so maybe it's bigger than what we're.
Well, yeah, but they're not. I mean, they're not.
I have not been to that stadium. Have you been to that stadium?
No,
I haven't been. Have you been
for a concert? Yeah,
Taylor Swift.
Yeah, it was not. I haven't been to a game there, but it's pretty cool.
I just I had dinner last night. One of my friends from college that lives here, him and his girlfriend, they are going to the Taylor Swift show this weekend in New Orleans, which will be cool.
Got some bad before we get to the. That's all right. Before we get to the Reindl Report,
I'm sure they're gonna have a great time.
A little bad news that I just saw.
It was uninteresting
from the UT. If you're a San Diego State basketball fan, just reported that Reese Waters, one of the few returning players to the Aztecs, has a stress fracture and is going to be out at least 6 to 8 weeks. Perhaps
San Diego and stress fractures.
Yes, I mean we saw what a struggle it was to get Fernando Tatis Jr., and he just had a stress reaction.
Yeah.
This is an actual stress fracture, a navicular bone stress fracture, and that is tough. I mean, he was going to be one of the veteran returning presences on this team, and now at the best-case scenario, you might get him back for conference play, but he's going to miss all these games against the ranked opponents where you build your resume early in the season, including the tournament that Paulie's going to over Thanksgiving in Las Vegas, which they announced yesterday has changed its format.
Just a little bit.
Yeah, they're going to still play the first 2 games as scheduled, but then the last game is now all of a sudden going to be like a championship game based on how you do in the first 2 games. So they could face a different team. They won't face Texas A&M essentially in their third game. Will face Alabama or I think Oklahoma or one of the other teams that are there in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
Minor change really, but they did announced that yesterday, but some bad news for the Aztecs this morning.
Yeah, and there are a lot of new faces on that Aztec team too. I mean, a lot of turnover from a year ago, so it's not great. I mean,
enough good new faces that they beat UCLA in a closed door scrimmage on Sunday, but that was without Reese Waters.
Right.
So you can't say, well, they have no hope now. They certainly do have good, talented players, but this is definitely a blow to San Diego State and Brian Dutcher.
Sammy, have you been to an Aztec basketball game?
Yeah.
Fun.
Yeah. Last year I went a couple times. My first basketball season here, I went quite a bit. Yeah.
Nice.
It's fun. Great.
All right, I've got a couple Padres topics I want to get to with Sammy in the later part of this hour. But right now, Paulie's got some headlines. It is time for the Reindl Report. Get things started here with our today's edition of the Reindl Report.
Now tuned into the motherfucking greatest.
Welcome to the Reindl Report with Paul Reindl.
Hi, Paul.
All right.
2 stories from the world of sports that we haven't gotten to yet.
We'll start off in Major League Baseball.
And 1 story that you didn't know you needed.
Are you laughing, biatch?
It's the Reindl Report
Hey, Paul, how you doing?
Okay, how are you?
on 97.3 The Fan.
Are you ready to bless the mood? I need some help, please.
That was good.
Can I get a yeah? Oh, yeah.
All right.
All right.
You want to do any more Matthew McConaughey impressions, Ben?
No, was that in the Reindl Report yesterday? When we did
It was
that?
right. It was just after the.
Just
Reindl
after that.
Report.
Yeah, no, I'll pass. I do those
All right,
for
all
Woods.
right,
That's
all
it. All right.
We will start off in Major League Baseball. I saw this story this morning, and it surprised me. So, told you a few weeks ago that the fan who caught Shohei Ohtani's home run ball to put him in the 50-50, the historic 50-50 club, it was consigned with Golden Auctions, sports memorabilia company, and the auction is closed. And Shohei Ohtani's 50-50 ball set a record, shattered the record for a home run baseball. It went for $4.392 million.
Wow.
And it's the most expensive home run ball in the history of the sport. And I thought, yeah, that was a very momentous occasion. It was historic for sure. Is that ball really more valuable than like Barry Bonds' home run ball?
Aaron Judge's from just a couple of years ago.
2 years. Yeah, what was it? 2 years ago?
Yeah.
Like, I was a little bit surprised.
I
I
think
know
it's
things.
Ohtani, yeah.
I know things get more expensive and valuable over time. So I don't even remember what happened with the Barry Bonds ball originally. I guess if that were to hit auction today, maybe it would surpass Ohtani's amount. But yeah, $4.4 million for Ohtani's home run ball. Surprised me.
That's insane. I mean, I'm not a collector, so I wouldn't pay anything, but let me ask you guys this, just quickly. 50-50 club. Very impressive. Who was the first member of the 40-40 club? Right away. Who?
Was it
Barry Bonds.
Who? No.
Pete
Nope.
No.
See, I would
Willie
imagine
Mays.
in 20 years, you may not know the answer to this question of the 50-50 club either, and you've got a $4.4 million ball to commemorate something that is not that. I mean, you know, it's easier to steal bases now. Obviously, it was impressive. I just don't know why there's value for that particular ball.
I guess it's because it's Ohtani.
He hit 4 more home runs. He stole 9 more bases after that. 54-59.
Jose Canseco.
Jose Canseco, 1988. First member
I
of
would
the
not have guessed that.
40-40 club. I wonder what that 40th home run ball is worth today.
Right.
I guarantee you it's not worth
Ain't
$4.5 million. It just isn't. So, yeah, if someone wants it, I guess it's worth what they're willing to pay for it. But to me, that's not a winning investment for the collectible market.
You a collector at all,
No,
Sammy?
not at all.
No.
I don't get a kick out of stuff like that. Like what are you going to do with the ball? I mean, it's going to sit there in a
I mean, I would have. I would have
mantle.
sold that sucker as soon as possible.
Yeah,
I wouldn't have cared to
make the money
hold
off
on to
it.
that one.
Yeah,
I collect a few things here and there that I come across over the years, but it's
Right.
got to have like some serious sentimental value to me. Other than like, I got a couple of baseball cards
Right.
that are protectors, but
there's
like
a whole
it's a whole market.
Yeah,
now.
there's a whole world out there of collectibles and baseball cards and these breakers and stuff. I don't get it,
It's a
but if
full-on
people
side
like it, they
gig.
like it. Yeah.
When we were cleaning out the garage the other day, I found 2 signed Randy Jones baseball cards. I did keep those.
George says, "What are your favorite collectibles?" I don't know that either of you even have one. I'll tell you mine. You guys remember the Marshawn Lynch phenomenon with Skittles?
Yes.
Yeah.
I have a signed pack of Skittles from
That's
Marshawn
pretty good.
Lynch. Got to meet him one time, and we went to 7-Eleven on the way and got a pack of Skittles and have it signed. That's my favorite.
I have a signed check from a restaurant by Mike Piazza from a place called Rayo's in New York.
Would he pay for his meal with a check?
No. Like the bill. The bill for the meal.
The bill, not a check. Yeah.
That's unique.
It is unique.
That's cool.
It's a unique story as to how I
Very
got that.
Darren Rovell of you right there.
Yes. I know Darren quite well,
Do
actually.
you?
Yes, I do. Fellow Northwestern Wildcat.
Yeah.
All right.
We'll leave it there.
Ben's got nothing. You have championship rings in your
I
possession.
have a world championship ring. That's a sentimental value. I don't wear it.
And real value, by the way.
Yeah.
Have we ever talked about this? How I have an Astros World Series ring
No,
from
we have not.
2017?
You have we both have a championship ring. You have the tainted championship ring.
Yes.
Really? How, I need to,
Like a real, like a replica or a real one?
It has my name on it.
Your name on it because you were part of the Astros organization in the minor leagues.
Wow. Corpus Christi 2017.
For Corpus Christi.
Yes, we can get into it. Yes.
That's really cool.
Huh.
Yes.
Well,
literally everybody
I'm not,
in the organization
I'm not
got
holding
it.
you responsible for
I would
trash
have nothing
can
to do
banging.
with it.
I really don't think Sammy calling games at AA Corpus
Yes.
Christi had much to do with
it was
the sign stealing scandal.
Right, and I received it well before all that came out.
Sure.
It was pretty cool.
Is it the same as the one the players got?
No, it's not.
Doesn't have
there were
732 diamonds
there were
and
some different tiers
rubies
to
and
it.
stuff. Okay.
But they literally got, and it was very nice. They got literally everybody who worked for the organization, top to bottom.
That is classy.
It was very nice.
That's classy.
Yes. So.
All right, we'll move on. NBA broadcast yesterday. We had a very awkward moment in the Lakers Timberwolves game. We do have, whether it's a radio show or a sports broadcast of any sort, a lot of times you gotta pay the bills. A little housekeeping. You have sponsor liners to read. We read several throughout our show every morning.
I don't know what you're talking about.
And so yesterday, opening night, and it was game 2 of opening night. So the broadcasters for the Lakers Timberwolves game, they had a lot from the offseason that they kind of wanted to address throughout the game. And they were talking about the recent passing of Hall of Famer Dikembe Mutombo. And, one of the other broadcasters had to make sure that they got this liner in.
4-time Defensive Player of the Year, matching Mutombo and Wallace.
Of course, the NBA world just had a tough loss with Dikembe Mutombo's passing.
NBA on TNT, brought to you by the Kia Telluride X-Line. Kia, the official automotive partner of the NBA.
Oh, that's Iron Eagle.
Yeah, that was terrible news in regards to Dikembe, who's been such an ambassador of the game in addition to his Hall of Fame career. He's meant so much to the game of
Good recovery, Ian.
Now, was there a video to that? Did they flash?
They probably put it on the screen. And once it's on there, the producer.
That's on the producer.
Yeah. That was Stan Van Gundy who brought up Dikembe Mutombo, and then Ian Eagle who was doing the play-by-play, and obviously got a cue in his ear. All right, it's time for the promo. It's on the screen. Now you've got to read the copy that goes with it. And he got caught in an awkward moment. But that was
You'll see it in an NBA broadcast. They're shooting free throws.
Very cringy. Very cringy.
So it's kind of the zoomed out camera from the corner as they're getting ready to shoot the next free throw. And then, yes, the Kia TNT Sports overlay popped up on the screen. And it was just so awkward.
Of course, the NBA world just had a tough loss with Dikembe Mutombo's passing.
Boom. NBA on TNT, brought to you by the Kia Telluride X-Line. Kia, the official automotive partner of the NBA.
Now, it also may be on Stan Van Gundy, who may have been warned that, hey, Ian's got this read coming up.
Could have been.
Don't bring up the passing of Dikembe Mutombo right there.
It also, had Stan not jumped in, it would have felt a little less awkward because then Ian could have quickly done the read and got right back into it. It was, It
was very awkward.
That being said,
happens.
I love both Ian Eagle and Stan Van Gundy, two of my absolute favorites.
Ben loves Ian Eagle more than
I love Ian. I'm with you. I love Ian Eagle.
His kid's pretty good too. Nepotism, but
Ben's been trying to get Noah
way.
Eagle on our show for 5 years.
I know.
We
had Ian on a long time ago, didn't we?
Really?
Yeah.
Ian's great.
Yeah. And Stan I've had on before too. He's fantastic.
He's really good.
Of the Van Gundys, and I like them both, Stan is actually my favorite.
All All right, and finally, we'll wrap it up. American Airlines is going to be trying something out where they will be shaming passengers if you break the rules. Have you ever boarded a plane? And I don't know exactly, I don't remember how American Airlines boarding goes, but I do fly Southwest occasionally. And, you know, it's like, let's say you're in group C32, right? And they're calling all the B passengers, group B.
Right.
If you've ever seen a guy kind of just wedge himself into the line, and he's probably not in the B group, but he's going to try it anyways, like, what are they going to really do, right? They're going to scan your ticket. They might even give you a look, but they're going to let you just walk onto the plane. So to prevent people from jumping the line while boarding planes, American Airlines has a new system where if you try to board before your group is called, as soon as your ticket is scanned and you are not when you're supposed to be boarding the plane, a loud alert will go off as they scan your boarding pass, and the agent will tell you, please step aside, sir.
Shaming people
into following the rules.
I don't like this.
So
it's not that big of a deal.
I guess I understand that people want to get on the plane earlier for what? Overhead bin space? Because
I think so, because when you have American
if
Airlines,
I
you have a
seat.
seat.
If I have an assigned seat, I want to be the last one on the plane. Like, why do I want to spend extra time in that tiny airline seat unless I need bin space?
The overhead bin space is important.
But, you know, what? One of the best things sometimes is the old gate check when you don't have to pay for it, and they say, hey, do you need this? Not really. And they say, all right, we'll just hand it to you when you get off the plane, as opposed to putting it in the overhead bin. I'm fine with that. So I'm not in a hurry to get on the plane to begin with. Unless it's Southwest, which was open seating, which they're not going to do anymore. And then, of course, you have to go in order, A1 to A60.
When you do the gate check, you don't get worried that they're going to lose the bag?
No, I think you're more likely to lose it on the actual, like, baggage claim
Longer
check.
distance, more hands to go through.
Yeah.
I kind of agree with that. That's a good point. Because I get nervous because then it just seems like you went out of the usual protocol. They don't scan it. They give you a little
it's
tag.
Part of the protocol now, though.
Yeah.
I mean,
You
either
guys
way.
ever lost luggage?
No.
Yeah,
I
it's
have
happened.
No, actually, I've not. Knock on
It's
wood.
a bad feeling when the conveyor stops and he goes, oh, it
never
hasn't
had
come
that.
out yet. It hasn't come out. It's usually because it's not lost. I don't think it was lost particularly. I had like a really fast connection, like doing travel for work one time, and we were had 15 minutes to get
Right.
from our plane to the next
yeah.
plane because the first one was delayed. Like our bags are never going to make it onto the flight, and
it didn't. Yeah.
And they didn't. I was not surprised that they did not appear at the end.
Seems like flying something we can improve in a lot of different areas. Like, why is there not enough bin space? Why can't we create planes that have more bin space?
I kind of understand why.
Why do we check into hotels at like 4 p.m. but you have to check out by like 11?
We had that
Why is
discussion earlier because they need
This is
time
off-
to
I think
clean
this
the
was
room.
off the air.
Was that off the air?
I think it was off the air. Woods was losing his
Woods was
mind.
losing his mind about check-in times and check-out times.
It's the biggest scam in the world. I'm like, I don't know about that. Like,
Couldn't they like clean overnight and have it ready for
Well,
the
then they
morning?
can't sell the room that night.
somebody was using it the night before.
If you're a
That's
hotel,
true.
if you're a hotelier,
Yeah, you want the night. I got
you
it.
You're
want
not
to
gonna
be
make
able
them
to
leave at 6 a.m.
theoretically
I
sell
got
every
it.
room every night, which means
It's about the night.
you need to be able to
Right.
turn that room over so you have new people coming in later that day.
But maybe you should have the option.
Now, they do at most hotels. If it's not a busy night, they will let you check out late or check in early if your room is ready. But if they're at full capacity, I do understand the need to have at least 3 or 4 hours where housekeeping can, they have to get into every room and flip it over by that time. So I get that. I totally do.
All right. Somebody in the chat said, seems like Woods loses his mind over a lot of things.
That is true.
Also very true.
All right, we will come back. I've got some Padres questions for Sammy Levitt.
Okay.
One
Burning questions.
One involving payroll, one involving Ha-seong Kim.
That's a good one, the Kim one.
We'll get to that coming up after a check of traffic on 97.
Hamul Casino. Fun above all else.
All right, here we go.
Black 17 on.
That is my number.
Story on the Reindl Report. I thought you were going to go in a different direction because we had a story last night on 10 News that was going viral, like around the world. I don't know if either of you guys saw this, but at an airport in New Zealand, Dunedin Airport in New Zealand, they've sparked a debate because they have put up a sign that says max hug time.
Oh, I
3
saw that.
minutes.
I did see a headline about
So
that.
it's when you're like dropping people off at the airport and saying goodbye. They've found that people are taking
that are
too
hugging for
long
3 minutes. That's a long
to
time
say
to
goodbye
hug.
with their hugs. And they said, if for fonder farewells, please use the car park, the parking lot. Like don't just idle here for 5 minutes while you're saying it's.
3
I
minutes.
think hugs is essentially, a euphemism for
Right.
long goodbyes
Goodbye
and
time,
standing there and talking and whatever. Like, please either drop your person off and let him go within 3 minutes, or
I could get a lot accomplished in 3 minutes. I can't imagine just hugging someone for 3 minutes.
Well,
though.
I can't. It's awkward for me in just a few seconds.
Oh yeah, I'm quick out of there.
Yeah.
A 3-second hug would kill you, Ben.
Yes, exactly.
A
A 3 minute hug? Yeah, it would be.
You wouldn't make it.
No chance. In fact, if Woods was here, the next 3 minutes until the break
would
would
do
be
it.
spent hugging to see if I could just stand it for 3 minutes. So I'm kind of glad that he's at Disneyland today because I don't think Sammy's going to make me hug him.
I don't.
for
I'm
3
like
minutes.
I'm like you. I'm not a big physical touch person. You guys.
I know. Woods will like to, if he was here, he would delve into why. He would like pick away at the psychology behind it. What happened as a child? Something happened at camp while you were
you would lay down on a therapy couch
for 8 weeks,
right,
and
tell us all
just
about it.
get the whole experience. I will spare you from that this morning, Sammy. I do want to ask you about some Padres talk, and I want to get into payroll questions. I was listening to Annie and Elston, and Craig, as he can be, kind of brutally honest sometimes, which I think is actually one of his best qualities. It may rub people the wrong way sometimes, but pointed out, just as a fact, that the Padres can't even bring back last year's team without going well over the luxury tax number. If you just wanted to bring back Jurickson Profar and Kyle Higashioka, and even if you say, okay, Tanner Scott, that's fine, great, rental, he's gone. Even to sign Jurickson, Kyle, even if they both sign fairly team-friendly deals, you're already blowing past the first luxury tax level number based on arbitration numbers and players that are coming back. So, running it back, a lot of people, when you don't win the World Series, they're looking for you to make what? Roster improvements. Okay, well, we didn't win it this year. What can we do to improve our roster? And the Padres are in a situation where if they want to remain, at or under the luxury tax level, they can't improve their roster.
Right.
They can't even bring back the same roster. They'd be bringing back a lesser roster. So I want to take a time out. When we come back in our last segment, I want to ask you what you think the Padres can accomplish and still sell to the fans, like in this offseason. Like, okay, here's why we still can win next year, even though we didn't go out and, bring in any big-time free agents.
I think the question is does different necessarily mean lesser?
Right. That's good. That's a good way to put it.
That's going to be the question.
All right, we'll get to that coming up next with Ben and Sam on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Padres put out a tweet this morning, mourning the passing of legendary pitcher and former Padre Fernando Valenzuela. We talked about it earlier in the show today, but definitely more associated with the Dodgers, but was really a good, fun Padre at the end of his career. 1995, 1996, when he helped the Padres overcome the Dodgers and win the National League West. Really fun moment. I think he pitched in that last series at Dodger Stadium that they swept the Dodgers as well to take the division title that year, and then part of 1997, and I think he retired after that season. But yeah, while he's more of a Dodger, definitely had a good little run with the San Diego Padres as well, and it's a sad loss for baseball today.
Yeah, and we talked about it earlier, his impact and how far it went, and obviously Mexican and all of it. So, yeah, very sad. And again, we went over the numbers earlier. The 81 season, unbelievable. What he did very early in that 81 season, unbelievable. So, somebody that had a huge impact, obviously, here in Southern California and well beyond.
I had forgotten his son, Fernando Valenzuela Jr., was also a Padres minor leaguer for a while, was a first baseman in the organization. I don't think he ever got to the big leagues, but he was actually part of the Padres organization as well. All right, Sammy Levinson, we got Padres and salary talk here for the last few minutes of the show before Annie and Elston coming up right after traffic on 97.3 The Fan.
From the 97.3 The Fan Traffic Center, here's Kelly Danick.
Traffic is sponsored by the Mini Donut Company. Wrapping up our morning drive with a few problems in the North County, guys. Stalled vehicle partially in the slow lane, North 5 Coastline near Palomar Airport Road, and southbound 5 Coastline just past La Costa. Stalled vehicle has been moved over to the right shoulder. Eastbound 78 near Nordall Road, there is a collision involving a couple vehicles. It's over to the right shoulder, and hit and run crash on the Bernardo Center off-ramp of southbound 15. Everyone loves when someone brings donuts to the office, but we're all too chicken to take a full one, so they end up cut into pieces. I don't think that ever happens at our studios, though. Yeah, we're not shy. Regardless, the Mini Donut Company offers bite-sized, guilt-free mini donuts that are perfect for work, parties, weddings, and more. Visit getminidonuts.com and be the office hero, now open at UTC Mall. I'm Kelly Danick with Ben & Wood, San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan.
I'm going to start with this comment in our YouTube chat because, Paul, this could be a plant. It is such a perfect way to kick us off here. Paul writes 2 minutes ago, what's the deal with Ha-seong Kim? He's a terrific player and from all accounts a popular fella inside the ball club, but surely we can't afford to pay him a ton of greenbacks when he's sidelined. I mean, that's like almost AI generated. Perfect to kick off this conversation. Yeah. And, I also heard Annie and Elston talking about Ha-seong Kim yesterday. We talked about it, how that was one of the things that surprised me when A.J. Preller mentioned that.
I thought it was the biggest actual news.
His recovery might take him into May, June, or even July off of his labrum surgery, which really does throw his impending free agency into a different light and what they might do. Paulie made the argument, hey, you don't hire Scott Boras if you're just not planning to go to free agency at all. But I think there is now a world in which the Padres might be interested in picking up what is, I believe, a $7 million option, mutual option on Ha-seong Kim. And I think there's a world in which he may want to accept that as well and try to go for free agency next year. And while there's a risk, obviously, on both sides, that's why it's possible, Sammy, when there's a risk on both sides, then you can kind of find middle ground. If one side's taking all the risk, then why would you do it?
Right.
But the Padres would be taking a risk knowing we may only have a couple of, good months of Ha-seong Kim at the end of the season. We're paying, in a budget that is strained already, $7 million. Ha-seong Kim's going, I have to wait a whole year for free agency again. Who knows what it's going to be? Do I want to do that? But it's $7 million guaranteed. And I made the point, the Padres are going to owe Ha-seong Kim at least $2 million no matter what. If they decline the option, he gets a $2 million. So essentially, you're talking about a difference of $5 million. Right. The player that I would compare him the most to, though, happens to be the guy who just won the National League Championship Series MVP award. Tommy Edman did not play at all until August this last season, was injured the entire year, and then was traded by the Cardinals to the Dodgers at the deadline, and still has had an outsized impact on the Dodgers season and the playoffs. I could see a similar path for Ha-seong Kim, either with the Padres, not playing for a few months, but having a really outsized impact the last few months of the season and the playoffs. Or, guess what? If things aren't going great for the Padres, he could be next year's Tommy Edman at the trade deadline.
Yeah.
A guy at a premium position who can play shortstop, who then comes in and helps a contender down the stretch. And if the cost essentially is $5 million for that, you can buy some good prospects for that money if you're trading him, or you're buying a really good player that you're adding for the second half of the season at a somewhat reasonable price next year.
I think Ha-seong at his best for $5 million, even if you have him for a portion of the season, let's say at latest that's June, right? Sometime in June. I think there's great value.
I think Ha-seong's a better player than Tommy Edman, in my mind. I mean, yes, everyone's on the Tommy Edman train right now.
It's hard
the
because
second,
he's played so
but
well.
Over the last few years, I give Ha-seong Kim
I
the
agree
edge.
with you. Yeah. I find the whole Kim situation really interesting because from the Padres' perspective, you have to now factor in something that to be honest, until AJ said it the other day, I didn't realize. Did you realize it was going to be such a lengthy recovery? Maybe I wasn't familiar enough with what a labrum surgery
I wasn't either.
is.
I thought, oh, I'm sure he'll be fine.
That surprised me.
heard of it.
Yeah.
That surprised me. Yeah. So from the Padre perspective, that's interesting. From Kim's perspective, I think it's interesting too. Let's say he was a free agent. How does A, coming off a down year, affect his free agency? And B, the fact that he's coming off a surgery? I don't know. He's in a much different spot than he was a year ago.
Well, Adam Klug in our chat says Ha-seong Kim would be crazy to accept just an additional $5 million with his option. Remember, if he turns down the option, he gets that $2 million as well.
Right.
Which so he's only getting $5 million more. I think what you're really looking at if you're Ha-seong Kim, what kind of offers are you going to get right now? With, the shoulder surgery, still recovering from it, teams that don't know you the way the Padres do, are they willing to offer you a 4-year giant deal knowing, we trust that the last 3+ years he's going to be healthy? Or would you make more than that extra $5 million or whatever the difference would be by waiting a year, proving you're healthy, and really hitting the market with some momentum next year.
And a market that you don't know what it's going to look like, because we saw last year it was really weird. I mean, bottom line, it was really weird, and guys that you thought would make quite a bit more money and get quite a bit more years just didn't get it. So I think that's part of it too, what they anticipate the market to be. My other question is this. I just wonder if there is a world where the Padres look at the Kim situation, even though it's only $5 million, and they look at it and they say, we've got Xander Bogaerts to play shortstop. We can give Xander another year of playing short, and he's going to be our starting shortstop. For next year, you have Cronenworth who can play second. You have Arise who can play first, and you use that $5 million towards other pieces.
Yeah, Adam
you
came
have
in to break
an infield right now, even without Kim.
The domino effect. Adam came in and said, if you bring back Ha-seong Kim, that pushes Xander back to second, Jake to first, and Arise to designated hitter. We know Luis Arise doesn't want to be a full-time designated hitter. It also closes the door, as you said, to, picking someone else up that can be a part of a lineup. Are you going to
flip-flop Xander back to second next? I don't know.
Get at bats. Maybe the simpler solution is simply Xander at short, Jake at second, and Luis Arise at first next season. It's not your best defensive construction by any stretch of the imagination, and it also leaves you pretty vulnerable to injuries.
Yeah, well, you will need somebody else that can play first base competently.
Arise, who's had an injury-filled season. Bogaerts, who's had 2 injury-filled seasons. Jake's been durable, but, you're one hit batsman away in the hand from being out for 2 months in Major League Baseball. And right now you don't have a Donovan Solano. I mean, you can try to bring him back, but again, that's part of the salary and luxury tax question, that just bringing back these same guys who are all going to want more. Jurickson Profar is going to want to raise. Ha-seong Kim's going to want to raise. Donovan Solano, not going to be expensive, but he's going to want to raise. Kyle Higashioka is going to want to raise. David Peralta is going to want to raise. By the time you just bring back those guys, you're almost
Rise, Cease, and King are making all more.
By the time you just do that, you're almost pushing the second luxury tax level, which is another like $20 million above the 240 one that it's going to be next year, and now you're getting into even more severe penalties. Again, As a fan, I don't care as much about the penalties, but I promise you, there's no owner in baseball. Even the Yankees and Dodgers owners care somewhat about the luxury tax penalties.
Yeah.
It's one thing paying money for your players. It's another essentially lighting it on fire and going, all right, I just signed this guy for $5 million, but it's going to cost me another $3 million in luxury tax money. That's not going to my minor leaguers. It's not going to my infrastructure. It's not going to ballpark improvements. It's not going to an extra reliever. It's simply money I'm essentially lighting on fire. Now, they don't light it on fire. They send it to the league office.
Right.
God knows what they do at the Christmas party for Rob Manfred. I have no idea what happens with that luxury tax money. I'm sure it's in a pool that does something. But it doesn't help the Padres at all to send that money anywhere else. And I'd rather, obviously, if I'm spending money, I want to be investing it in my players and my organization and not writing a check to Rob Manfred for nothing at all.
I think there are two key questions, and you alluded to both of them. Number one, what is the payroll, and how, if you're going above the tax, how far are you going above, considering you reset it this year? That was the goal, to reset it this year. And number two, what do you do with that money, and how does A.J. Preller work in whatever constraints he has?
Is there AJ's always talking about the 5-year plan.
Yeah.
Is there a path where you can kind of alternate years, where you go over and then you come back under? Like next year, what kind of flexibility might the Padres have salary-wise? Eric Hosmer comes off the books. That's a easy $12.5 million right there that you no longer have to account for. You may or may not re-sign.
But you could invest in the Digging Deep podcast.
Yeah, you could. You may or may not re-sign.
We already have
Dylan
like 3
Cease.
years.
You know that if you don't re-sign Dylan Cease, you lose obviously a big pitcher. But
yeah,
15
King,
million.
yes.
You could have a lot of money coming off the books.
Yes, you could.
In some ways, the trade deadline is going to be one of the more difficult ones coming up this next year. Especially if the Padres are right on the fringe.
Wow.
Because, AJ always wants to go for it. But if you can't afford a lot of these players in 2026, you're going to want to get stuff for guys like Dylan Cease and Luis Ariz before they hit free agency, and you can't afford to bring them back if you want to stay under the luxury tax.
I agree with you. I think if they are hovering around a playoff spot or
now,
around 500.
If they're in first place, you go for it.
Right.
You try to
The
win a
counter
World
to
Series.
that is, I think right now, without knowing what the full roster looks like, and I think you would agree, I think the expectations are going to be a lot higher than that coming out of spring training than hovering around 500, a playoff spot.
Padres?
Even without knowing what this roster looks like. The pieces that are,
You mean we're not going to sit around here in February and March and go, 82 wins is probably fine.
No,
of course they're going to be higher this year. If the Padres are going to try to, there's no way you can lower expectations, so don't even try. Our expectations are raised, and rightfully so.
For them to be in a position to sell at the deadline, that means things went pretty wrong.
That's a good point.
Yes.
But
I hope they're not in
that also
position.
means you could get really, really expensive in 2026. If you want to keep those guys coming back again, Dylan Cease is going to get a giant deal, from the Padres or elsewhere. Michael King is going to get a giant deal. I don't think Luis Ariz is going to get a giant deal, but he's going to get a decent deal.
But just because guys are going to walk at the end of the year doesn't mean you have to trade them.
No, we've seen the Padres let plenty of guys walk. They let all their guys walk after 2023.
To be honest with you, like when there are a number just in my 3 seasons that I can think of guys that were going to be free agents, whether it was Kim, whether it was Snell, whether it was whomever, even Soto, who was coming up on it after this season. There was always clamoring to extend. When are we going to extend? And I always thought about it like sometimes you don't extend, and even for a guy that might be homegrown, they get to free agency and they walk, and you lose them and you go get somebody else, and you spend the money elsewhere.
It's the Bill Belichick heartless school of player personnel decisions. Get the most you can out of players while they're in their prime, and then walk away, whether it's not signing them or trading them, before they start declining and aging. Hasn't been the A.J. Preller school. He's locked guys up, from now until the end of time, and he's trying to create a core. I mean, and he's trying to create excitement, and he's been immensely successful in creating buzz, bringing people to the park, and putting a contender on the field. But you can't always simply your only strategy be to sign guys to state-of-the-art $300 million contracts for 10 to 15 years. You have to have other players that are performing at, cheap salaries and, team-controlled deals to go with those players. And if you just let every free agent walk, you won't be reloading your farm system.
Right.
One way to do that is with trades and, sending out higher-priced players to bring in prospects and lower-priced players to go around the guys you have already locked up. Xander Bogaerts, Fernando Tatis, and Manny Machado aren't going anywhere. The goal should be to put as many good players around those guys as possible, but they're going to have to be somewhat affordable because those guys continue to get more expensive as these contracts go on.
To me, no matter what that final number is payroll-wise and how far they're going to either not go or go over the tax, to me, it's a very similar offseason to last year for AJ. Like, he's going to have to hit. He hit really, really well on so many guys last year, and he's going to have to hit again. Look, Profar is a fascinating one, okay? I don't know. What's he going to get? Is somebody going to walk up to him and say, here's 4 years, $60 million? I don't know. Maybe.
Then you let him go.
Yeah, but then you need a left field. You're going to have to find a starting left fielder. There are some scenarios where you're left with some holes that you're going to have to fill with not maybe a ton of money to do it.
And
so
you traded away most of your in-house candidates for that job.
Right.
Not that any of them were going to be any good, but your Marcys and your
the fact is
Martorellas are all gone.
From a money standpoint, they got such great that was the top example of getting so much value from a guy that you were barely paying. He's going to have to probably do a little bit of that again. Get tons of value from somebody you are not paying a lot.
And a conversation that I'll have with Woods, because we're kind of out of time when he comes back. I think you have to listen this offseason. If someone is willing to overpay for a Dylan Cease, you have to listen to that because it might make your team better.
It's fair. Yeah.
Overall,
it's fair
to make that deal. You can't just say no. We can't lose an ace. We have pitching issues already. You have to listen.
It's fair.
Sammy, you're an ace.
Sammy, unbelievable. Enjoy the rest of your off season. We'll see you in February.
Thank you for having me.
Or probably a little bit before.
I bet I'll be back on.
Annie and Elston are coming up next. For Paul Reindl, I'm Ben Higgins. Woodsy, have a great time at Disneyland. We'll talk to you tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. So long, everybody.